Hey, Ashton.
I
Hmm. How was your weekend?
good. Yeah, how was yours?
It was nice. I don't remember what I did. Oh, I did a lot of Pokemoning, which is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you play Pokemon Go or?
I haven't really no.
Okay.
I've heard a lot of people who play it. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, initially, the whole point of the game was to get up and go, to move about. But then, once, hey, Sensei Clifford. But once COVID hit, they did a lot of changes to allow people to do like virtual stuff. So
Uh-huh.
even for rating and all that sort of stuff, you can do virtually and everything. So yeah, it's
Exercise classes.
right.
There's virtual exercise classes too.
No, I'm talking about Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
That's like a virtual exercise class.
Well, yeah. Well, no, it's supposed to be kind of physical, like as in the whole idea was for you to actually, walk about and in
From a
doing.
game design point of view, Pokemon Go is gonna be flawed always because there's no way that you can play that game safely, right? Because there's this whole thing that people are going talking about safety in games, right? Like physical safety, right?
Yeah.
Like Wiimote flying in the head of a small child sort of safety, right?
Yeah.
So what did they do though,
I mean,
right?
that's
They
why they
came
had
up with
straps to it.
no. The straps are already
no.
part of it there, right? What they did was they added in a gel pad, that gel custom out grip thing
Oh
on there.
yeah. Actually, we have those.
Yeah. Those didn't come with the original Wii. Like I had the original Wii's, they just came with the straps.
Yeah,
and
but
then
we have some. We have some without and with that.
Oh, I didn't realize that with the Wii's. Yeah, I guess that makes sense that they would.
so then they came out with those clear gel pads on the outside. Actually, beforehand we had like it was like the thinnest little colored gel pads that were just one on the outside, just to
Yeah.
kind of make it look. But then they were like, Nintendo was like, oh hey yeah, so people are crashing their TVs with the Wiimote bowling, right? Where you gotta like whip it, right?
Yeah.
Well, like with Pokemon Go when it first came out, because obviously it was based off of Niantic's Wayfarer, which already was a alternate reality or whatever you call it, right? Like an overlay on top of the real world. But when it first came out, because they never thought about a lot of the safety stuff, people were doing things like like stopping off on a highway because they'd see a Pokemon, or in the game.
Yeah, and people were getting hit by cars and stuff.
Yeah, people were getting hit by cars. They were going in the subway tunnels.
Yeah, like 2016, I think, was when that was really.
Yeah, so
let me say though is that they knew about that from the beginning. That was always a concern they had, was people getting hurt.
Yeah,
outside
so
the real world, right?
It's so easy to, right?
Like so one of the things they did when I joined last in fall was every time the game would start up, it would display one of three warnings, right? One is like be respectful of real world communities. One was watch where your surroundings, stuff like that. And then they did certain things like on the highways, they stopped having Pokemon there. Things like that, right? So
yeah, you'd see people with phones.
That's where
have,
they
like,
should have
rack
had
of phones on their car. Just
really, people would do that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And they'd sit there on the road in their car just looking for Pokemon.
They also have a thing where it pops.
It's like hundreds of dollars worth of phones. Like it's actually probably thousands of dollars worth of phones just lined up there.
Probably hundreds there. You can get them pretty cheap, to be honest.
They also have like a warning that pops up if you're like going too fast.
I mean, there's a few iPhones in there, so.
If it determines your speed is like going too fast, it says don't play Pokemon Go while driving.
Because there's like 15 phones just lined up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
You see a lot of hackers and people like that where they'll have huge swaths of just different phones there too, though, right? So it's as long as it's an iPhone 5S and above there, it'll be able to play Pokemon Go. So That's kind of like how much is an iPhone 5S, right? Like that thing is $99 on eBay.
No, you wait. Like, there's a lot of people I know in Barrie who have like multiple accounts because they
Yeah.
have multiple physical phones.
Yeah.
Sometimes a loved one or whatever, but most of the time it's usually they own two phones.
Yeah, you could probably buy like 10 phones for like $1,000 as well. Like if you're just going for cheap, you know what I mean? Or if
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Just
you can buy a bunch
basic.
of like
had a bunch already on
cheaper
hand, right?
ones, especially like Android. There's a lot of budget Android phones that you can buy.
Yeah, those
That's
Like,
how
there's
they
a lot
do
of
that.
flagship
Go.
ones and a lot of the budget ones. So
Yeah.
The view bots and all
easier.
that stuff there where they'll get multiple different phones, have them all running the same sort of program, right? In that
Yeah.
program where they just go to access similar videos, right?
Exactly.
Where technically
Mhm.
it's coming from a whole bunch of different phones there looking at your video, but just
Ashton, did you see there's a new Code Ninjas Challenger machine learning?
Yeah.
But that first video doesn't work in Canada. The self-driving cars one, I don't know why. For some reason, they end up picking a video that isn't available in Canada.
Oh.
So
That's odd.
yeah, it's kind of weird. But all the other
Is it
videos
in the
work. So
classroom?
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's in the classroom.
I'll go check that out.
yeah, I was looking at how to make a stretchy Roblox shape in Roblox there, like the stretchy sphere.
Yeah, yeah, as well as the 3D building of modeling, whatever. There's a few
Where
more
is it? Is
stuff.
it is that machine learning?
Yeah, machine learning. So it's basically just watching a few videos and answering a bunch of questions on machine learning.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because you actually get to see at one point the data set used by one of Google's AI.
Self-driving cars isn't allowed.
Yeah, I know. That one isn't.
Well, I'll just load up a VPN. That's my solution, I guess.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. That would work.
It's a solution.
But a
It is.
lot of people would
Yeah, no, yeah, I was sending a message to headquarters to basically be like, look, you need to find another video.
yeah, that's
So inconsiderate.
Seriously, right?
Well, they wouldn't know there. There's not that many ninjas here, I guess. So.
Well,
yeah,
no,
well,
I guess there's a bunch, but I think it's more that, where you'll get a video that's not available in the US on YouTube, but it's available other places.
It used to be a bit
It's
more
the other way
common.
around, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So they won't really think about it,
So it's just inconsiderate. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but it's weird to me that like particular, like it looked like it was a video done by CBS Sunday Morning, so I guess that's a news channel or whatever. It's weird to me
Mhm.
that they would only do it for States, though. But anyway.
yeah. That's interesting. I wonder why it's not in Canada. I don't know.
Yeah, I think when you upload a video, you get a chance to specify like where the content is viewable on. So
Yeah, no, but I wonder why. Like, what's the reasoning behind that?
Oh, let's see. Yeah.
Could be copyrights usually, like if it's a song or something that they're using, where they only give the rights to share their song within certain what they call territories, right?
Oh,
It's-
that's
Yeah.
true.
The main one I can think of, at least, right?
Right.
That's probably what it is.
It would be
Makes
weird,
sense.
to be honest, there too, though. But it's just something more that's like on YouTube side than it is on the video designer side, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So they can't help it, right? There we go. I found out how to make squishy spheres, so how you can use the mesh for your parts there, and you can change the mesh type there.
Mm. I still want to figure out eventually how to add textures
Yeah.
to the mesh. Because, you can do like...
They're called decals.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's what I
decals.
need to do.
Yeah.
Because you can do
Or-
stuff with CAD, right? And then import it
Or
in mesh.
or decals. Some people do call them decals,
I
and
call them decals.
some people also call them decals.
Yeah, I've heard decals.
I
too,
generally call them decals, but same as
Decals is like the American
that's much
version of
better.
like soda or pop.
Fire stick.
Hello.
Hey, Mika.
Email here.
Logan, although it's just orange screen to now.
So you're ready to do the classes then, David, though? Like you you got through all that stuff there?
Okay, come on.
Cool.
Yep.
Alright, got more-
Yeah, I just signed up for REPL.
You got more experience with Python than me, I think, David, right?
Probably, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
Logan.
I mean, to be honest, I really
It put a
didn't
smile
learn
on your face.
Python. To be honest, I really didn't learn Python till earlier this year.
Okay.
But yeah. But you know, it's not that different, I
Dean
guess.
Bonito, Trusty O'Brien.
Trusty O'Brien.
Trustee O'Brien?
Oh, it's
Because it's a computer.
yeah.
Yeah. Just
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just reading what it says on here. You can
Yeah.
rename yourself on Zoom. If you click on the three dots or whatever above your name, your picture, you can choose rename.
Yep.
Hey, Logan. Oh, we have two Logans, right? I forgot about that.
they joined at like the same time.
Two
So
O'Briens.
Might need an initial.
Two O'Briens.
Okay, I can hear now.
Why don't you do the dots?
M.
And put Samuel. And did you see the dots?
Already changed mine.
You should look at that. You guys are awesome.
Sam, nice. And then, so one of the Logans we might need an initial for, just so you know, we can tell them what.
Logan W.
Logan W?
Yep.
Okay.
I can rename myself.
All right, go for it.
That would be great.
And Logan O, all right. So we got 6 people. So I guess we've got what? One more
Half.
person waiting for.
So what's the first thing we should be jumping into then?
Ooh, good question. All right, so we are actually going to use an online IDE to code in.
IDE.
Yes.
Ideology? Oh, integrated development environment. Why didn't you just say that?
Well, you know. Yes, we're using REPL.it. Exactly. I'm going to take over the screen sharing just to show that as well. Right. So, I mean, if you want to eventually download Python for yourself, you can go to python.org/downloads.
Yep.
If you're on Windows and you've got a 64-bit machine, which you probably do, I recommend don't click on the download link here because it'll automatically download the 32-bit version. Click on Windows and scroll all the way. No, sorry, don't scroll all the way down. Click on latest release and then scroll all the way down. And then you'll see that's here, the executable. And then, you know, you can go through the install and stuff like that. But to make it easier for the camp, we're going to use something called REPL, REPL.it.
REPL.it.
Yes. It stands for read, evaluate, print, loop, which is a really weird way of basically allowing you to, I don't know, code, you know, like online, right? Code without really saving your stuff or like, you know, without having to worry about installing things and whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I use the word IDE. Does anyone know what an IDE is?
I have to look it up.
Development environment, something?
I don't even even
It-
knowing
it-
integrated
so-
development environment. I don't even
Yeah,
know what
I
that
know.
means. That
Yeah.
that I knew
So
what that.
basically, an
I've heard
integrated
it called an IDE before, but I've never really, I
Yeah.
don't really know what it
So an
is.
integrated
Well, actually,
development
right.
environment is essentially a one-stop software shop where you can write code, you can try your code, run it or compile it, you can debug your code, you can see the output, all of that in the program.
Yep.
Whereas before, in the past, like way back in the past, you would have to use Notepad, you would have to code it, you'd have to use the command line like DOS or whatever, and you know, and run your program and do a bunch of stuff, right? So,
Yep.
whereas this is it. So if you're on the screen, you can.
Hi.
Hi, hey Miller, is that you?
Oh, hey,
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Uh,
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, so we know Miller because he's one of our regular
Oh,
ninjas.
yes, mommy?
On the light on or off?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Maybe on. Is it better?
Yeah. Sorry, I just was talking to my mom for a second.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah, we haven't
might
started yet, technically, right?
Yeah, we haven't technically started. You might want to rename yourself Miller, although you don't have to.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait. Okay. Oh, yeah, right. I totally forgot that it's set to my username there.
Exactly. So all I had mentioned, Miller, a couple of things was, we're not gonna install Python. We're gonna use an online browser thing. But if you wanted to, you could go to python.org and go to downloads and download.
The latest release one there, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest clicking on the download because that installs the 32-bit version. Click on Windows, click on latest Python 3 release, and then scroll all the way down, and you'll see the files. But we are going to use a site called repo.it.
Replit? Is that?
Replit. I guess Replit, yeah.
I don't know where you're getting Repil.
Well, I guess it's weird because
Sorry, my internet was glitching for a second. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. It's weird because I think IT is the top level country code for Italy. So it's kind of weird that they have IT, but anyway.
I think IT also means information technology.
Oh, right, yeah, well, yeah, it does, but I didn't know. Yeah, I guess maybe that's what they're also doing.
So what it's really called though is read, evaluate, print, loop every time, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's what it's supposed to stand for.
Yes.
Oh.
So yeah, so you can just start coding right away. Although you might want to sign up because that way you can kind of save stuff, like multiple stuff. And sign up.
I'm just gonna use my Google account there.
Yeah. Let's see.
Whoa. Oh. Huh. It's like since I first started the website, it's like giving me like a little code tutorial thingy.
So okay, so if you are here, well, I guess I shouldn't assume that. Has everybody either clicked on start coding, which will bring up a REPL, or signed in? Or
No.
Oh, feedback.
That is my fault.
That's okay.
Okay, next. There.
My
What
internet
languages are
glitched
you
out,
interested?
too.
Just this HTML.
Just kicked me out.
Plus,
Oh, it kicked you out, Ashton?
Yeah, just like what happened to Miller, kind
If
of. My
it
internet
kicked you out,
just
you wouldn't
glitched
be able to
out.
get back in, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it kicked me out and then I rejoined, but
Okay,
my
next.
internet
Next. Yes. Oh, I have to verify my
basically what
email.
we were doing, Ashton is just going to repl.it, and you can either just click on start coding, but I recommend logging in or signing up.
Yeah, if you have a Google account there, you can use your Google account.
The meeting.
Cool.
Right before the meeting.
And then you can go through that process at the beginning of choosing a bunch of languages, or you can just skip it for now.
Yep.
I just finished it right now.
Cool.
Yeah, it doesn't change. Yeah.
Whoa, that feedback.
Yeah.
Not
Logan,
the worst I've ever heard.
What you could do if you're still getting feedback issues is type in the chat, and then Sensei Clifford should be able to probably see that. And actually I could too, but it might be a little harder since I'm screen sharing.
Yeah.
Hello, Slash.
That was when I hit enter.
Yeah, hello, Slash.
I fat fingered the enter button.
Hi.
That happens to me a lot. Not mostly on a keyboard, but on my phone. Sometimes I accidentally put a slash. Sometimes I accidentally put
I
slashes.
always do a slash before I type. I don't know why. It's just habit. I have no clue why. It's just by accident. I slip over.
Probably because a lot of like Roblox and all, a lot of them use slash to bring up the chat window.
That's probably why.
I use T. I usually just use T like.
Well, that's usually what you do when you're doing like dev
Well, even in
commands or whatever,
Minecraft,
right? Yeah. Minecraft has two of them. If you hit
Yeah.
slash, that's for doing commands. You have T for doing chat, right?
Yeah, I
Slash
type
is like a
automatically
shortcut
and
to
then it'll
already
read
put
it.
a slash in front of you, so you don't have to.
Hmm. For
Yeah.
doing commands, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, we're gonna learn Python, which is a pretty popular language. I think it started in '91, the first version, but it's used. I know Google uses it, Spotify uses it. Sensei Clifford, I think you found out that Scratch uses it, doesn't it? Don't they?
Yeah.
On the back end. Oh, and that's the thing about Python is that it's probably used in a lot more places than you think because it's kind of like as useful as Java when it comes to like online interfaces and stuff like that. Like Java used to be kind of like the go-to for a lot of people for when you had to, deal with online stuff for networking or websites and stuff like that because web pages use a JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Python is a lot like JavaScript there, but it's a bit nicer and a bit easier and less aggravating of a code language to work with there too, because it's very, very simple, very easy to read, very nice kind of language to work with there. It's one of them. It's actually I think tied right now for number 2 for most popular language worldwide there with JavaScript. I think like
I
it's
think you're
came
right.
a lot.
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean,
Java
and,
being
you know,
the number 1 in the world there, right?
and I'm sure you've heard, obviously that Python's used as well for things like machine learning,
Oh yeah.
data science, stuff like that, right?
And that's one of the cooler things about that is like machine learning and all that stuff. That's like a really new
Somebody's.
whole chapter of like computers right now, right? And Python just being the easiest to work with there too. Though a lot of people like using it, and there's a lot to learn from it. Okay.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do for start coding is we'll click on new repo.
Oh, you want me to share my screen?
Somebody new
Go
joined the
through it,
chat
or
and joined the.
I can
Oh,
keep
okay.
it shared for now. It's fine.
Okay. Oh yeah, we got someone new here. Hagar K.
Hey, it's us.
Hey.
Hi.
How's it going?
So how's it going? Hey guy.
We're good. Just had an overlap with the other kids, so.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I
I like this picture of the surfboard robot. That's
do.
actually really funny.
So
What?
Hagar, what we're doing is we're going to the website repl.it, repl.it.
Read, evaluate, print, loop.
Loop, yes.
Yes.
And we're going to click on sign up. And if you have a Google account, you can just sign up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll sign in. And yeah, so Anika, you had asked me what we're going to start coding. So yes, we'll click on new REPL and choose Python. Eventually, we'll also choose Pygame. We're going to do some games in Python, but we'll do a couple of other things throughout the week as well. They automatically give you a name. You can always change that, and you can change it later as well.
Warm-hearted, unacceptable.
Huh.
What a weird.
They choose random weird names.
Yeah.
That technically are English words, but don't really make sense together.
It's like Tinkercad though. They come up with random names.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least that's English, right?
Suburban, empty, full diffusion.
Yeah, Anika, you should sign in if you can, if you have an account. I mean, you can still start coding, but if you click on start coding and don't sign in, you won't really be able to save it though. That's a problem for later.
Yeah, and it may not seem like it's important to save it now, but that's why saving is more for the future than it is anything else, right?
And it's
Yeah.
For your
and
future
the thing-
self.
And the thing with this is it's nice, right? Because then you have a list of all your my repos, on the left side here, when you're able to save it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Python files are called .py, right? Makes sense. And it always starts with main. I guess it doesn't have to start with main.py, but the REPL does. So our very first one, the quintessential hello.
Somebody else is here.
Ooh, who else has joined us?
Or oh yeah.
No, I think so. It could be just someone leaving, coming back in, but I do think there's a new.
True.
Yeah, I thought it was someone else.
So that's our very first Python thing. We're gonna print "Hello World" and yay! Let's print it to the.
Where did it print
Yeah,
"Hello World"
command
there?
line.
To the right-hand side, or
On the right-hand side, yes. So
Yeah.
the right-hand side is REPL.it's way of showing the output, the command line, as it were. You notice that for anyone who has done JavaScript or anything like that, you'll notice we don't have to do semicolons. You can, it will still run, but you don't have to. So it's really nice that way. What else? I mean,
If you're serious about coding, though, doing the semicolon at the end of the line there is a habit that a lot of people say that you should do whenever
to get
possible.
into, yeah, no, it's not bad.
Just
especially-
because when it comes to other languages, you're gonna have to put it there. So when you don't,
right, when you're switching languages, it can be a little,
there's a
kinda
reason why they tell you. It also helps, just kind of makes your code look a bit more concise there. That this is the end. You didn't just kind of stop halfway through, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
with Python, we don't have to make variables. We just put the name of the variable. So x equals 5. We don't
Yeah.
have to put any keywords like bar or let or
And
int.
what's a
or
variable?
Yeah, like in Java. Oh.
What's a variable? So variable, if someone doesn't know what a variable is, it's basically a placeholder. It's something that we can assign values to. Like in this case, I have the variable x, which now has the value 5. So let's say I wanted to print x out, and I run it, it'll print out 5. I can also do things, we can also do things like add in two things together. So for example, we could say the value of x is, this might actually not work, but we'll try it. I think it might give us an error. Yes, it did give us an error. Okay.
Oh.
So, and the reason is this. So I'm just putting in a little weird code here called str. This is a little more complicated subject, but really the reason is this, because
Me, the same person. I'm just watching on my tablet and doing volume through a computer.
okay, cool.
Okay.
So the reason we do this is because even though we didn't specify the type of variable it is, the type of data we're holding, this is what's called an interval, right? It's a number, right? And this is what's called a string. It's a sequence of characters in programming, right? A string is just basically 2 or more characters. And for Python with print, if you remember when I tried it this way, it gives like this error message.
Trace back, most recent all call, last file main.py, line 5 in module. Okay, so it's saying the
Yeah.
error's on line 5 there, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is, really. The error is on line 5, and it says can only concatenate, can only join together string, not int to string. So,
Oh, wonderful. They use basic English there. So it's so, anyone should be, obviously, clearly, I have no idea what that is. But yeah.
So yeah, really all it is just saying that basically we have to make this integer into a string.
Yeah.
The other way.
So we do that by doing str next to the integer, when integers can only be numbers, right?
Right, exactly.
And strings can be any character, letter or number, right? Or symbols, right?
Right, as long as it's in quotes, really,
Yeah.
right? Single or double quotes, it will
Yeah.
work.
So you could do just a number as a string, but it'll still be, if you have the quotes there, it still counts it as a string, not a number
Right,
as
so
an integer.
let's say I did it this way.
Ah.
Exactly. So let's say I did it this way. I won't need
Mm-hmm.
to do str because these are now 2 strings. And
Yeah.
I can just, boom, the value of x.
The value of x. So even though you put in x in there, it shows it as a number because you put x equals 5, which just kind of gives the code there that
Yeah,
if you
it's
see
the
x,
same
it doesn't
as-
actually mean x, it means 5 or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. It's the same as me putting print the value of x is 5, right? The exact same thing as me doing that.
Yep.
Now, if I, let's say, went back to doing this as a number, I could then do something like this. I could say x equals x plus 2. And I will get 7. Yay!
Hey.
A little shortcut for saying something like x equals x plus is, in programming, is to do like plus equals. And it's the same idea. So x equals x plus 2. What
Yeah, I was
else?
learning the Lua and Roblox there, and they don't have that in Roblox. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a nice thing to have there where you can add to itself there by just saying plus equals.
Yeah. The same with
It's
any,
a weird
any
symbol because you
math-
wouldn't see that anywhere outside of programming, right? That's
No.
nowhere in math
The-
or anything like
The
that.
same with any math operation. So x equals minus, I could do time multiplication, which in programming is the star, so shift plus 8, because obviously this is a variable name, right, or something else. So we can't use that for multiplication. And then I can do division as well.
So variables can be whatever we want them or need them to be. So if we need them to be numbers, if we need them to be letters, they will be whatever it is that we put in there. Because some programming languages, you have to say beforehand, oh, this variable is a box basically that can only hold numbers in it, right? So these ones, whatever we put into it there, it'll take it and basically it'll contain it inside of it there, like a package or a present or something, right? So it's like whenever you see X, this will have the value inside of it there, right?
Right. So
yep.
For anyone who has done a bit of maybe JavaScript or something before, you might be used to the idea of when we do loops or if statements, we do braces, right? Or brackets, curly brackets. In Python, that's not needed. So let's say we want to do a little quick if statement. So X equals, I'll do X again, X equals 5. If X,
1 second. There.
So basically, I also don't need to do brackets. I can just put if X is less than 10. So then how we do it in Python is we put a colon and then we indent. And you notice it automatically indented for me. So indentation is important in Python because that's how it tells, how we tell the thing that this code is part of the if statement.
And what is an indent then? Like that's kind of an important thing, and it's kind of a weird.
Okay, so an indent is essentially a bunch of spaces into the line. The other thing to do, you see that if you guys know the tab key, it's beside the Q. You can also do that. So
because my tab key's got like a little arrow showing it like shifting this way and that, right?
Yes, yes.
So that's an important
shift,
thing.
If you did shift plus tab, it does it the opposite way.
Yeah.
That's why the arrow key goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
So
from the print typewriter days though, but it's great that it uses it here because then you can see that if X equals or X is less than 10, basically if that one statement there is true, the stuff that we have indented below that, it'll run that code for us. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's right now, X equals 5. So it's basically if 5 is less than 10, which 5 is less than 10, then it'll print you win, right? So that's what it shows there on the right there. And that's only because we have X than 5. So if we change the variable on X there to like 15, which is bigger than 10, it won't do anything on there, right? Yeah. So that goes to 15.
Then it won't do anything, yes.
And the screen on the right is blank there, right? Very simple, basic stuff here, right? But that's basically how all complicated code comes from. It's just, you know, a whole bunch of little things like this, right?
And then if we want, and then so once we're done that if statement, all we do is you can hit backspace if you want, or shift tab, but backspace is the easiest. Go back to the beginning and, you know, and then that's it.
Do some other code or some other step there, right? Yeah, once you kind of get rid of any of the spaces there and it's back to the beginning of the line, whatever code you do up there will be separate than that whole if X less than 10 line, right?
Right.
And you can put more than one line of code into all of that, right? And you can put more
I could
in there all the way.
X equals, or let's say X minus equals 2. And so then, and then if I do like this, print X, it'll do 50. Oh, it won't do UN, and so it won't even do the -2, right? But I forgot my logic. But if I do it that way, then it does. So, did you guys see that? Do you guys get that?
Oh, because it was bigger than the if statement there. It printed off the
So
50
greater-
of the X. It
Okay, so-
didn't do what it was inside of that that statement there because it wasn't true. So the if statements, which is what we call them, right, in coding,
Yes.
those if statements, they make a small decision, right? A lot of people call them like decide, like, you know what I mean, choices.
Conditionals.
Right? Conditionals.
I think technically in programming the proper term is conditionals, but basically it's an if statement. It's checking to see.
So
if
it goes, if this is true, then we'll do the rest of this code, right? So if you put like, I think if true, like, does that still work even, or is that?
It does, but I'll get to that.
But yeah, basically,
now-
so that's a whole thing there is going like, so if it's true, it'll work. If it's anything else, we'll just ignore it, basically, right?
Right. So now Anika had a question, which was how do I do the less than sign? So that's shift plus the comma key is less than. Shift plus the decimal key is greater than. And if you remember from math class, usually if we want to do say less than or equal to, we kind of write them above each other. In programming, you write them beside each other. So that's if x is less than or equal to 10, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, this is another one of those things that it's kind of an advanced code. You don't really need to know, but when you put something in front of the equal sign, it kind of changes the meaning of it sometimes, right?
Yeah. Now, one thing with the equals is, if we so you see how this one equal sign is what's called assignment, right? We're making the value of x 15. So what if we want to compare exactly? We want to say, what if x is exactly equal to 10? So then we use two equal signs. So x equals 10.
Yeah.
That's the only little weird convention in programming. Well, not the only one, but that's a little weird convention in programming.
Yeah.
Because the single equals is for assignment. Yeah. So Clifford, you had asked about true, right? So okay, well, so in
that's one thing I like about coding, how true and false are like clearly objective, like, you know what I mean? When something is true, it is true.
So so another type of variable, which again we don't have to worry about specifying.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to jump into it too much, but
that's okay. We can do that. Is called a Boolean variable, right? Which I don't know if anyone's learned that, but it basically means that you can only have the value true or false, right?
I think everybody knows about true or false.
Right.
Boolean logic is the different thing, right?
Right, but that's basically what Boolean means. Yeah.
Which is kind of like redstone, and that's why redstone in Minecraft uses that a lot, where either the redstone circuit is on, which is true, or the redstone circuit is off, where there's no energy.
Right.
And that's so if you've ever used a switch, that's basically the same thing. If the switch is on, it's true, right? If it's off, then it's false.
So in Python, to do true and false, they're actually keywords, so they capitalize. So true, and then I can say if x equals true, then
actually you just have to do.
I know, I'll get to that.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I was just wondering that. Yeah, okay.
Right. So another easier way in this case is to also just do if x.
And that's only because x is literally equals to true, right?
Right. So it's essentially the same as saying if x equals true. Yeah.
Basically, it's like if whatever that you're doing there fulfills the if statement, it'll run. If it's anything else, it just ignores it. You know what I mean? Like it's someone else's proper answer, basically.
Right. Yeah. Now, going back again to operators and stuff. So let's say I wanted to do not. So let's say I wanted to say if it's not equal to 5. Well, in Python, because in other languages, you would have to usually do something like this, right? Not equals, and you still can in Python. I believe you still can. Right, let me actually make this 6. Yeah, you still can, but the easier way to do it, because Python tries very much to be just like English, right? Like just speaking English. So you can just do if not x equal 5. And that is another way, or if not, x is less than equal to 5. There we go. Which should still do it.
Hey, prints hello, meaning that it's not equal, or not less than or equal to 5, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And so you read it, you do kind of read it as you see the symbols there. So there's little Pac-Man melts. If it's pointing to the left like that, that would be considered a less than symbol, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you go less than or equal to, right? Because it's got both of them there, so we can choose either one of them. Either one of those symbols by themselves would mean about the same thing as both of them together.
So the next thing we could talk about is loops. And does anyone know what the loop is in programming?
Miller's got his hand up, and so does Ashton.
You can just say it. You don't have to put your hand up. It's okay.
Well, that's generally what people do in school there, where they do that, the asking the questions thing, right?
Yeah.
Then since Clifford, you would have to select someone if they put their hands up.
Yeah.
Oh wait. Well, wait. Does Ashton want to say it, or can I say
it? Doesn't matter. You can both say it if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
3, 2, 1. A loop is like it's you can a loop is like it repeats. You can set a loop so it can repeat code for like a loop repeats code for like a certain amount of time you set it, or forever if you set
Exactly.
it forever.
Or
Yeah,
both.
Exactly.
Oh
both.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so again, with loops, just like if statements, we use the colon and then the indent or tab. So let's say I want to say while, okay, so let's do x again. If x is equal to 5, x equal to 5, and then let's say I want to say, well, x is greater than 0, then I do print x, and then I can maybe even say x minus equals 1. So that
And
way,
then print it again.
no,
No, because it'll say that after the second loop. Okay, yeah,
Right,
I
right.
get it there. Right.
So then we'll have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then once it hits 0, then this while loop, will get out of there, right?
So basically, the first time the loop went over, it printed 5 because x equals 5. So
Mhm.
then once it went through that loop, it did x minus itself equals 1, right?
Yeah.
Which basically
Which
means
same way of saying x equals x minus 1, right?
yeah, which basically means whatever 5 is, take away 1 from it, right?
Right.
So
And
this is why you have
the
those negative equals signs like that too, where you just want to take 1 from it there, but out of the total, right?
Exactly.
So then it goes, the first time it prints it as 5. The second time it goes through the while loop, it prints 4. The third time it prints 3, 2, and then 1. And then after it prints 1, that x negative equals 1, that line 5 there's command, that'll then make x equals 0. So then when it goes over the code for the 6th time technically, and then it goes, does while x, is it still greater than 0? And it looks at x and it goes, no, x is actually 0 now, so it no longer runs it, and it'll never try to repeat that again because it's no longer going to be true.
Exactly. Now, if let's say I did it, I put this after, then we get 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, because it'll print it when it hits 0, and then it'll go back into the loop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Check.
Same code.
So.
You just changed one line of things there, and it changes the output, right? Because it goes from the top of the code there. It'll basically read the first line, and it goes down through the page like that over every time it loops. It goes from the top to bottom, right? Obviously, like how anyone would read this, right? But that's basically one of the more, if you've never done programming beforehand and this is kind of new to you, this is, you know what I mean? It's helpful to know this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other,
I'm not trying to rush this here or try to scare anyone. So if you guys have any questions now, like if anyone is following along here, just let us know. If you want us to keep on moving along here, if you guys have any questions though, I think we've been pretty good at explaining it all. So that's why I'm like, if you got any questions, they're probably good ones.
Yeah, exactly. So if you
feel free to interrupt us here. Yeah, we'll just keep on talking over everyone here unless you guys give us a good reason here. Okay.
So there's another type of loop, which is common to programming languages called the for loop, right? And so in the syntax, if you've ever done for loops before, the syntax in Python is a little different. So the most basic one, like let's say I want to do it 5 times, is I would say for x, you know what, let's call it a different thing, for y, and then I have to say in, so for y in, and in this case, if I want to do 5 times, I have to use a special function called range, okay? So if I click on range, you see how this IDE will pop up with some things to help me figure out what range is, right? So some of this might be a lot right now, but you'll get used to it. Return an object, produces a sequence of integers from start, inclusive, to stop, exclusive. Meaning that whatever so if I put in 2 values, a start and a stop, let's say I do 5, 8. So it will do 5 inclusive, so it starts at 5, and it goes to 8 exclusive, meaning just before 8. So it goes 5, 6, 7, that's it. And that's always the way programming works. It's always, the reason for that is because computers are 0 based, right? They start at 0. We start at 1. as people, usually when we count. Computers always start at 0. So technically, if I just put in one value, like say 5, it will start from 0 and go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Like it says here, range 4 produces 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's still 4 times, but it's
Probably one of the weirdest things you have to deal with coding. And it's almost to the point there where it's sort of like a joke and a meme. Like if you guys use Scratch before, right? The block coding with Scratch. Scratch doesn't do that. It'll try to ignore that 1 equals 1 everywhere that you do stuff, right? It's only when you're dealing with the actual numbers in the programming does it switch 0 and 1 basically, right? Because when you print the numbers, if you print 5, it'll show 5. We've seen that, right?
Yeah.
But when you tell a computer, go to the first number the computer thinks of is 0. It doesn't think of 1 as the first number, right?
Exactly.
Which does make, you know what I mean? Like you can understand that where you go like, what's the first number? Like it's like going, what's the first letter of the alphabet? A, right?
Yeah.
Because if you go, what's the first number in all of numbers there, right? It's a bit harder to say though, right? Because some people would say 1, but if you're starting at 0, then you could count up or you could count down. Because sometimes you start at 0 and then your range goes down to like -5. Well, then the first number in that series wouldn't be 1 because that's a positive number, and you're going from 0 and you're counting down negative numbers, right? That's basically the sound of the logic there too. The why 0 is the first number, right? In say a range of numbers. It's not because you know what I mean, 0's like anything special there too though. It's technically like the letter A in the alphabet there. So a lot of us start our numbers from B, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of a weird concept because we don't have like a negative alphabet, right?
The thing with computers is it's because computers think in what's called binary, right? 0 and 1, on and off. So that's why for them it's easy to start with 0, with off, nothing there, right? And then the next.
Well, that's where numbers start. Their numbers start from nothing, right? Yeah.
Oh, I did. Oh, that's why true and false on some programs are 0 and 1.
Yeah.
That's why.
Because it's the same idea. True and false is it on or off, right? Is it? Yeah.
Like I would say, like redstone signal in Minecraft there, right? Off is considered 0, and then on is considered 1. You can flip that too, though. You could still look at it the other way around there too, though. Like that is a thing that they do in coding. But by the default thing that you look at something, when something's on, that's considered 1. That's why when you see power buttons for things, have you ever wondered that why they have that circle with the line in the middle? That was because power buttons used to be where circle was off, 1 was on, but then they came up with 1-hit power button. So you hit that and it both turns it on and off. So they came up with a symbol for that where they showed the 0 for off and the 1 for on. Which most people mistake that for like a cat's eye or something like that. Or even sometimes have the 1 that's kind of over top of another O there, but it's like makes it look like a U.
Yeah.
That's again the binary on and off, right?
Oh, somebody's here.
So so now with this, as you can see, it started right 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's for y in range 5. That's the most simplest for loop in Python. So it's really a for in something, right? We have to give it a range of some sort or some sort of collection. It's called a bunch of items to go through. So in this case, we're giving it that range of 5 from 0 to 4 to go through. What else? So let's talk a little bit more about the print statement. So print, as you've seen, is basically the easiest thing we can do. We can put in brackets, in quotes, what we want, like a string, or we can give it directly a variable, right?
Yeah. So if we're not giving the little quotes there to tell it what to do in print, we'll basically be giving it computer code, right? Because anything that we put in the bracket in the quotes there, it'll print that off because it loves printing strings. It's the easiest thing for it to print, right?
Right.
It's basically like it'll print out the words there. Whatever we type in the brackets, they're really easy. But when you start telling it to print x plus 5, these are now non-traditional sort of characters, right?
Doing that. Oh, wait, no, it is doing that, right? Because x is 0. See, even sometimes, like you forget logic-wise, right? What's happening, but the computer is very fast. It's not that smart. It'll do exactly what you tell it, but it's very fast and it'll do exactly what you tell it, right? So in this case, I forgot that x is 5, but then here we made it all the way down to 0, right? So now when I do x plus 5, it goes back up to 5.
I wrote the same code you did, and mine's not working for some reason.
Are
Ooh,
you
that's
able to
interesting.
share your screen?
See, you can't say you did it exactly like his there because even if you're off by a teensy tiny little bit there, right?
Yeah.
That's
If-
okay.
and that's why it's not your fault there too, though. No one can be, you know, what I mean, seen to be typing perfectly all the time there, right?
Mhm.
Are you able to share your screen? I don't know who said that.
Yeah.
I'll do it right now. Just give me a sec.
I think that's. I don't know who that is either. Oh,
Yeah.
Logan W. I think.
W,
I think
yeah.
it's yeah.
Oh, here we go.
It's a blue. Oh.
Mm.
Whoa! Actually, I actually look blue when I.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a blue screen right now.
Hmm.
At
Maybe
least
it's
not the blue
loading?
screen of death, BSOD.
Yeah. I yesterday I got the green screen of death because I'm using Windows Insider builds.
Okay, well, for now, let me share my screen again. And so what, are you getting any of the same output that I'm getting?
We can't even hear Logan now. Maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe he did get a blue screen, and that's just, and the share screen's just glitching out.
No, it's camera.
Okay.
Now it's on.
Why don't we move on for now until we hear from Logan again?
His
Uh,
camera just.
or Logan,
Oh,
if
now
you're
he's
not-
muted. Now he's unmuted.
Hello?
Ah.
Oh,
Oh
Hello?
wait, we
Oh.
can hear him now.
Okay, good. I just unmuted and muted myself.
okay.
Okay, that's good. So are you getting any of the same output that I'm getting?
No, it's just red and it's file, like the 2 colon thingies in the air, main dot Python, like colon line 7 for y in range 5, like.
Okay.
I don't know.
So what does your line 7 show? Does it have the what I have, like 4 space y space in space range open bracket 5 close bracket and then a colon?
A full colon, not a
Yeah.
semicolon.
Yes, not this.
Oh, I forgot the
but
colon.
full colon.
Yeah.
So
Figured that's
what
what it would be there. Yeah. That's
Right.
that's understandable, totally.
I have a
Oh
question.
yeah, it's working now.
Cool.
Thanks.
Cool.
So I have pretty much the same thing, but it's just a bunch of those. I don't know.
What do you mean?
Oh, the same thing, but a bunch of them.
A bunch
It
of
looks like it's
Ah.
not just one. It's not just like 10 lines of code. Like 10 lines in the output.
So it's not the same thing.
So, okay,
no,
so what
but
are
it looks
you
really
getting?
similar.
Okay, but it looks similar. There you go. Sorry.
So what are you getting?
And this is
What's
where you
happening?
but this is where you understand that how we operate in the real world, especially speaking English and stuff like that, is that we don't actually ever communicate fully perfectly whenever we talk. We're always like just kind of loosey goosing it there too. So when you
Because
get
most
into
people-
coding and you're like, I got mostly got it typed out there. But
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not every single.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
try to show my
You know,
screen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go for it.
somebody's-
No, he
Oh
joined
yeah, that's
the-
Aston. Astapatin.
This is what I
My
got.
favorite line from my favorite movie when he's like, "Did you say the incantation?" He goes like, "I mostly. I
Oh,
might not have
so
said."
Ashton,
every-"
the reason you have that is remember indentation is important.
Oh,
What you
yeah.
had,
Wait,
line
I don't
7 and
see
line
it.
8,
Wait,
they
you are
indented
using
into the while loop.
Oh,
So
Right?
indentation now
Oh,
isn't
there, that's-
just for cosmetic.
No, not yet. Your for loop also.
Oh.
Yeah.
Line 7 needs to. be-
So
and
when you
now
do
have it as
indentation,
separate.
as opposed to like when you learned Japanese,
okay.
stuff
Now,
like that, right?
that's oh wow.
Right,
Indentation is
right.
really important in Python.
Indentation
It
is
is very
actually
important
important now,
in
and now
Oh.
you see why there's
Yeah.
a lot of like.
Yeah,
'cause
it's I've never really.
So I will
like,
show you guys
I thought
something.
it-
I don't know if you notice it on Ashton's screen, but when he had it that way,
like
you
this.
see how it has this little vertical line. That is what this REPL thing does to help us figure out our indentation, to help us know where our code is. So this basically says anything inside of this vertical line is part of this while loop. and then anything inside of this second vertical line is part of this for loop.
Ah.
So that's one way we can tell when we have indentation issues. Right. So getting back to the print statement, if we just do a blank print, and let's say I did print hi again for the thing, it will just print a line, nothing. Message, it keeps on saying there's an error. So Anika, if there's an error, I don't know what the error is. Are you able to type that out in the chat, or perhaps are you able to share your screen? And while we're waiting for her, is everyone else okay?
Yes, we are. Well, yes, I am.
Otto Finch, I don't think I've said hi to you yet, but I'm Sensei David, and I should rename myself.
It's Hagar.
Oh, Hagar, okay.
It's just my mom's computer, so it has like the
name. Fair enough. Okay, cool. All right then. Indentation error. So what line does it say? It should tell you a line number.
Line, whenever you get an error, it'll tell you the line where it doesn't like.
Yes. So let's.
The worst errors that you can get are the ones where it doesn't say what line's going on, and you have to then kind of guess, and you have to
figure
my screen, where everything technically
like
still
right
runs.
Now it tells me line 8, right?
Line 8, yeah.
So that. Oh wait, I gotta stop sharing.
It'll usually tell you which line and then why it doesn't like that.
Now, so you gotta check and see what's going on with line 8. Do you have? It should be one indent, right? One tab from the left side, like that. Oh wait, I gotta share my screen. I'm sorry. I just forgot that I wasn't sharing. All right, it should be. Let me repeat that. It should be one indent from the left side, like that. Like that now makes sense because you can see it. So Anika, see if that helps, because what expected an indented block.
Huh. That's what shows up when I do it in the wrong spot.
That's what shows up for you too?
No, if I do it the way that you were showing, like the wrong way.
Oh yeah.
So
that's probably what you. Right, like if you do it this way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Anika, if it says expected an indented block, then you're probably seeing what I'm doing. Like if you see my screen, you see how right now 4 and P are lined up together. They're right underneath each other. So what you want to do is put your cursor at the beginning of line 8 and hit the tab key, which is beside the Q key. You just hit it once, and that should take care of it.
Hooray! Hi.
So why don't we move on for now, unless Anika says that there's still something going on. Right, so print, if you just do print in just brackets, it'll do a blank line. So we've seen we can use a plus to what's called concatenate or add together.
Or join, I think, as they call it in Scratch there. I think that's the simplest way is calling it join there, because I think Java or JavaScript used to have a join thing like that, where you couldn't have 3 things in one line, so you had to join things twice.
Whereas this, I actually can. I could say hi, world.
Yeah.
And then that.
Oh, that would be hard if you had to do that for.
It's a little, well, you do that in Scratch, right?
Yeah.
Like, because Scratch, you can show like a variable, right? If you want to display it, but if you want to say something before and after that variable, you have to put in 2 join things in there. So this one is great because if you have any series of list of things that you want to say, you can put a plus sign in between it there. So if you want to say, your score in quotes there, right, as a line of text, then you could
Yeah,
show the
so
variable
let's
for your
say I
score.
wanted to, okay, so you know what, let's
Yeah.
even do that.
Well,
Let's-
actually, it wouldn't
so-
be that
so-
hard, but it would be very long. It would take a very long time to do.
Also, another thing to notice, if you notice when I start typing, there's what's called autocomplete that comes up, right? So you can hit enter or you can click on it and then automatically complete it. It's a really useful tool that IDEs, integrated development environments, have. So let's say
Like the
what,
whole reason why we're using this to not Notepad, basically.
yeah, basically. So using the example Clifford just gave, your score is, and then I can do like this.
Yeah.
And then.
So that's how you can have your variable in the middle of a, you know what I mean, your print
Mhm.
there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you can't just put the variable inside the, you can't say your score is, score. You have to at least put a stop there. Just make it to join it there. I mean, it does make sense as you move forwards, right? It'll become easier though. If this is the first time you're seeing something like this, you know what I mean? It's kind of a bit different than how you would normally.
Oh, that's why it's
Yeah.
glitching.
Yes, I just changed from Y to score to show this example, to make it a little bit make more sense.
That fix it. Okay, there. Yeah.
The other thing, so there's two more things with print I wanted to show you guys. So one is, we can join by using plus. We can also join by just doing a comma. So if I do.
Oh, there was something about that commas
There.
here. What was that?
So yeah, so I'll show it in a sec.
Okay, yeah.
So with a comma, it will, once it runs, the value of x is 0. Now you notice that with the comma, I didn't have to put in a space, right? It automatically adds a space before the second item. If I put in a space, then I will get 2 spaces.
Yeah.
Right? So, but if I'm doing plus, then I have to put in a space, because if I do it that way.
Plus, we'll just put it in exactly
right.
how
exactly.
it is there, right? It's
So-
technically more. The comma's in there more that if you had like a series of like variables you wanted to print there too, so you're not using any of the quotes there, so you just say like x, comma, y, comma, z, right? And if each x, y, and z had its own numbers, instead of it showing all of the numbers there, like say there was like 1, 2, and 3, right? If you didn't do a comma and you just did plus in between them, it would just show it as 123, like as one number. So when you have little commas that automatically put in a space, it's one of the more common things you want when you're printing like, a series of numbers or scores or, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're going to want to show a space in between those numbers just to show that they're different numbers, right?
Right. So yeah, so we'll do an example of that.
But that's like, this is something that's like not something that you're going to need to use all of the time. It's just kind of an option if you want.
Right.
Right. Like it makes things easier.
So we'll do an example of that. One thing for this example too is, so in Python, let's say we want to create a variable that has multiple words to it, right? Like we can say like my variable. There's a few different programming conventions on how to do that. In Python, the one that's recommended is to put an underscore between names. It's my variable. Or let's say in this case, the example I'm going to give is x coordinate equals 5. Let's do another number. Y coordinate equals 15, and Z coordinate for 3D space equals 20. So now I want to say print
y underscore
your coordinates are x coordinate, y coordinate, z coordinate.
Oh, good. You picked small, simple, easy variables that anyone would be able to understand. Yeah.
So,
but it's so easy though to type it in though, because you already typed in x underscore coordinate there, right? That is a variable, and then as soon as you type that in, the program that we're using here, REPL, it already understood. Hey, this is an important thing. Obviously, you wouldn't be declaring, x coordinate equals 10 if that wasn't an important thing. So as soon as it's become a thing, let's say, right, a variable, right?
Yeah.
Now, wherever we type x and then like an underscore, it's going to basically auto
complete.
autocomplete. So a lot of people that have used cell phones, this is a lot more familiar. Back in the 90s, if you had something like this would be really weird to a lot of people. But nowadays, this is like a pretty common thing. That
Common,
most
yeah.
people understand what autocomplete is, right?
Yeah, I mean, Google does
Yeah.
it all the time.
Hackers have
with
been
search-
using autocomplete long before phone users ever have, right? For texting.
But yeah, so if I type in X, it'll show me actually both the variable called X and the variable called X coordinate. And then
Because
I can,
you called X that
Those
the
are
first
great.
line. Yeah, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, with variable names, really, you can name it whatever you want. It's always good to try to name it something that you can understand, so that way if you're coming back to it, like,
Yeah.
Later or somebody else is looking at it, they can kind of get what it does, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, oh yeah,
And-
wait, and there's one more thing with print I wanted to show you. So print, as you've seen, right? Like, let's say I wanted to do, let me actually set it up this way. The example.
So print,
so-
either you put in the little brackets and display something, or you throw in some computer code, basically, right?
Yeah, so I'm gonna call it countdown. I'm gonna say, let's say I want to just basically do a countdown, right?
Yep.
Down like that. If I do that, it'll, wait, sorry, I had to get rid of these things. It will just count down. Oh wait, it will actually count up. Okay, let's just call it count for now to make it make sense. Okay, so it'll count up, but it'll like I said, at the end of print, it always does a new line, right?
Mhm.
Let's say I don't want a new line, so I can actually pass in a parameter, another parameter to print called end. You see here it shows end, right? It tells me end is a string appended after the last value, default a new line. Basically, it lets me specify what it'll do at the end. So let's say I do like that.
Dot, dot, dot.
That. But the thing to keep in mind is, like, at the end of the last print statement, it does the same thing. Dot, dot, dot. It doesn't do a new line, right? So let's say I was doing this, I could just do like that. And now I have dot, 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 and then a new line for my next whatever, right? So that's a little kind of tip for Python print statements. That's really cool. You don't have to only have the new line at the end of everything. You can specify.
So you can find this if you ever inside of the print thing, or where did you find that helpful?
Oh yeah, when you're inside the print one. So the minute I go like print, and then I go like that, it'll pop up with some extra.
Yeah. So
when I'm
this is
inside the print.
and this happens for any of the functions or any side of the
Yes, any
the
of
commands inside of Python itself here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So for will have its own thing there too, and it usually tells you this just so you have a better understanding of how it's supposed to work, because print doesn't work unless you do it the exact way that it's supposed to, right? Like if you
Right.
don't have the brackets there, it doesn't print anything, right? Like it needs to have those, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah. So that I think that's. Oh, and then
Is there any-
last thing I guess we should cover for when we move on to making programs and stuff is sometimes we might want to write our own what's called a function, right? A function basically is like print, like the command, right? So print is a function or command. Range is a function or command, right? And
Yes.
we pass to it what's called parameters, right? So range takes possibly one parameter, possibly two, or even three parameters, right? Print takes, let me do that. Print takes possibly a bunch of parameters, right? Value dot, dot, dot means any amount of parameters we want. Let's say we want to create our own functions, right? Because we want to reuse some code over and over again. Right? So
Yeah.
in Python, we use what's called a def keyword, DEF. It's like define, basically.
What?
Then we just give it the name of a function. So let's say my function, and I take in, again, I don't need to specify. I just need to put in the name of a variable if I'm taking in a variable. So that and for, no, I'll do while x is greater than 0, print x and x minus equals 1. So I'm kind of doing the same sort of thing I did before, but this time I'm making it a function.
Mm-hmm.
So then what I can do is I can just call my function and pass in a value.
So the first thing you did was define your function as my function, my underscore function, right?
Mhm.
And that saves it into the library. That's why it's like defining it there is kind of like defining a new word, right?
Yes.
So it's just like if you start up a define yeet or something like that, right? Then everyone knows what that means there. So it's technically it does have its own library, right? That my function is in there. So when you define that, it puts it into a library and it goes, okay, this is a thing now. This is a, you know what I mean, like
Exactly.
X or anything else there that we run, right?
Exactly. And so you notice how it'll show my function as autocomplete with this little square thing. That
Mhm.
means that those are functions that I can call. Like another one is thinking I might want is max or min, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
want them right now. So I'm going to choose
So max and min are functions that already exist, right? So we
built-in
can create
function.
ones, yeah, and they're usually simple ones. The ones that already exist usually are very simple. They do like very limited things there, right? Some of them have more complicated ones. They do like math or something like that, right? But generally, though, we're the ones that'll be writing up the more complicated functions there. So even what he's got there when he defined my function there, that's more complicated than most of the built-in functions that come in the game, because most of them in there they just limit it or change it, math stuff, right?
Right. Now, one thing to keep in mind is Python and most programming languages run from top to bottom, right?
Yeah.
So it looks at, when we go to run it, it looks at line 1 first, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it goes 6. So because of that, if I, let's say, call my function before I define it, it'll give me an error. My function is not defined. Because even though I have defined it, as far as Python's concerned, it goes to line 1, tries to call my function. It's not a built-in function. It's not something that comes with Python. So it doesn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why usually we have to then put a function that we're defining at the top, and then we put our main code at the bottom.
Yeah. And this is just if you have to run something over and over again. So if you had like your function was, checking out a whole bunch of stuff there. I don't know. What's the easier way to show like a function there, right? Like if you want to run something over and over again there, usually one of the more ideal ones to say is like if you're moving a character, right? Every time you move him to the right, you have to say move the background, right? A whole bunch, right? So you would have a function in the background that would run whenever the character moved. So it would make the background look like it's moving with the character, right?
Yeah.
So it's not so much that you would want to make a function for making the character move every single time, but the specific, like a little task there, something like that. Like if you ever got a coin, you could make a function that gives you a coin, plays a sound, stuff like that, right? Like it's like functions can be used for running a series of commands there, but usually the same thing over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And you can put in some input with them, which is the helpful thing.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, I think functions are similar to Minecraft commands.
Yeah, they are in some ways like a command block. How you can put in like an input into a command block in Minecraft, if everyone's ever used them before, right?
Now, you mentioned, Sensei Clifford mentioned input. So that's one thing that, let's say we want to get some input from the user, right?
Yeah.
Right now we're dealing with what's called the command line, right? Just typing stuff. So if we want to get input from the user,
piece by piece sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, we just use a built-in function called input.
Okay.
And we just string from standard input, right? The trailing new line is stripped, meaning that when people press enter, that enter isn't part of our input. So if I just put a prompt like that and run it, it'll just kind of wait. You see there was no like little orange triangle because it's just kind of waiting for me to enter something, right? So I can type in whatever, but it does nothing with it right now because I just that's button mashing. But I can do something like I can, attach it to user
name. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay,
or
let's
you could do user. I keep on forgetting you speak robot sometimes.
well, I don't know. I'm a programmer, so it's
I
kind of
know. So you're
Yeah.
used to speaking
But-
robot more than human, right?
so so then if I were to do something like print user
Print whatever the user inputs there, right? Yeah.
so
The first line will start off. It'll be waiting for you to type in something, and it won't do anything until after you hit enter, basically, right?
right.
So what
Now-
happens if you type nothing in there though? Like, what if you just go in there and press enter?
Well, then
Error. Oh no, no error.
it'll just
Yeah.
do that.
See, you don't have to print anything with print. You can do it just as an empty line, and it'll just go to the next line, sort of thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now let's say we did want to get something. We wanted to tell the user what type of input to put in. So we can do that. We can say, please enter your name.
Correct.
Oh, you know what? Let's make it a little more.
Oh, that's great.
friendly.
Yeah.
What is your name? All
Oh,
right.
that's friendlier. Okay.
What
I thought
is
please enter your name was pretty
your
funny. You said
friend-
please everything too, right?
what's your
Now,
what's your
what is your name?
Yeah.
what's
Now
your
it's
name,
just
friend?
now it's just what's your name,
Your name is.
stranger?
What is your name, friend?
Your
I
name
know
is,
what-
and then
Or
you put
friendly.
name.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Okay.
Now let's say, what is your name? David. Your name is David. All right, yay.
Very friendly.
So now, so we can get input from.
And you see how he used the comma there, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he could have just as easily done a space at the end of is and then do a plus. It would work just as fine there too, though. But it's just there's a reason why they do that comma space thing there too, though. It's more just kind of it's easier to read as well too, though, as opposed to a whole bunch of pluses. there.
Right. It's
Kind
just
of weird.
remembering, right? With the comma, you don't have to put a space,
Yeah.
but with plus, you do, right?
Yeah.
So,
So that's
yeah.
It's just purely something that's in there. Is that when you're doing like printing out words and sentences there, you kind of got to be mindful of what is the last thing that's going to be showing up at the end of it, right? Is it going to be a space or is it going to be just?
You can't get the underscore. So the underscore is
Oh.
shift. So you have the minus button.
Underscore
Plus
looks
button.
really hidden on your
It's
keyboard
shift
there.
plus the minus. So you
Yeah.
have the minus and then the plus or equals. Shift minus is underscore. Shift equals is plus.
Minus sort of look shift.
I
but
know, looks
sort
like the
of
underscore.
yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's like it's kind of like the hidden
Yeah,
sort of character.
yeah.
If there ever was a hidden character, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minus it looks like shift and shift looks like minus. Oh no,
These-
not shift. Underscore equals looks like minus and minus looks like shift.
It's true.
Exactly.
The difference is one is a bit longer and thinner, right? There's
Yeah.
even a difference between dashes and minuses technically as well.
Oh.
But that's just like computer characters, right? There's a difference between a capital A and a regular A in computers, okay?
Yeah.
Every character is technically a different character in a computer. None of them, you know what I mean? Capital W and lowercase w, they're both W's technically, like to us. But to a computer, a capital W is different than a lowercase w. Those are two separate characters, right?
Mhm.
So that's one thing there. So if you call something X and you call something capital X, does that change the variables in it there, David?
Yes,
Yeah.
it says the capitalization matters.
Yeah.
So it goes 5, and I say x equals 10, and I say x, it will print 10. So capitalization matters. When
So that's
you
why
code
everything that
business.
you type very much matters in coding and that. If anything, if you text and like message your friends a whole bunch there, you'll probably be better at coding than a lot of people are. That's what they say is actually people that social media a whole bunch, they're actually better at doing good coding.
Yeah,
Huh.
and actually a lot of times, and because of that, a lot of times if you encounter problems, usually it's just like a small typo.
Usually it's a spelling error.
Capitalization. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Especially if you see
know?
it says error anywhere, just know that you typed something wrong. That's generally the first thing you want to look at there until your code starts getting so deep that you're getting errors because there's some fundamental flaw in logic there too, though, where you're trying to make like divide something by 0 and it's just giving you you know what I mean? Unless your
Right.
game is like so technically deep there too, though, that it's coming into like you know what I mean, you're trying to do snakes and ladders and the game's kind of trying to run Monopoly sort of thing, right? That's
Yeah.
about it there. When most of the times, whenever you see an error, it'll tell you which line the error is on and why there's an error there. And it's usually a typo, right? So
Yeah.
that's actually very helpful because then you know you can fix that problem, especially if you know which line to look at. Some errors on computer programming languages, they'll say the line after the error. So this one's useful because it'll say the same line as the error, right? Some of
Yeah.
them, if there's an error in the code, it'll generally run the whole program until it gets there. This one will just stop everything. As soon as there's an error, it doesn't show you anything, so you can't even run your code until you dig into it, make sure that everything's spelled and done properly. It's helpful. It seems like it's frustrating, right? But it's actually a lot easier for learning there too, though, because it's a bit more forgiving of any mistakes you make. You know what I mean? Like people type in the wrong things all the time. I do that, right? No need to get
Yeah.
upset or frustrated about it.
So that's kind of really, well, day one was supposed to basically just be getting used to Python.
Yeah. But
But
this
it
is
kinda got
the main reason of getting used to Python there too, though, because it's technically a language, right? So it's
Yeah.
like we're teaching you guys, just like if you're conjugating vowels in French, or if you were, learning about how to roll your R's there for Spanish, right? These are things that that matter, and just for helping for understanding as we go forwards. There, you don't need to remember any of these things, mind you. We will bring it up again.
Yeah, like obviously the more we do stuff, right? The more we use the
Yeah.
same commands over and over, the easier.
So a lot of this is just supposed to be repetition. So if you're like, I'm not absorbing all of this right away, don't worry. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
So are we going to get to some of the example stuff then, or?
Well, we could, or we could try to come up with a really basic program ourselves. What do you think?
What's the example there? That would be, I think, good.
So okay, so
Yeah.
then we'll go through the first example.
Yeah, let's run through one of the examples there at least, because this is still new for me teaching people this, right? So
Right, but before we do that, so if you click on the 3 lines here, you'll see you can go to my repos.
Mhm.
And so right now, because I just deleted all my code, it doesn't save, but let's just leave that in then. If I go to my repos, it'll show me my repos, right?
yeah, cool.
And you can create new folders to put them in, stuff like
So
that.
repos, this is the page
Oh.
of code that you were doing up there. That's a REPL.
Right, exactly.
What's it called? Multiple.
Yeah, that I think is maybe a premium thing, so I would stay away from that for now. But
Yeah.
if you want to look into it yourself, yeah. So this, for example, is where my warm-hearted unacceptable blocks are, and I can rename it. Go to edit and rename it. I can put a description. Test. No, wait. Test. Because I'm not that original. I can also click to see the history.
Oh,
Error.
Apparently I can. Okay. then.
Error.
We'll ignore that. Oh, you know what? It might just save the history as you're doing it. So I think because I moved away from the page,
Oh,
it has a history. It's probably what it is.
so that's the undo history.
Yeah, basically, I think it looks like the undo history.
Oh,
And then I can go to click on new repo, or if I'm home, I can click on new repo. If I go back to my repo, I can also add new files, right? Or even folders in that. So let's say, or upload too, right? And download it as a zip if I want to save it at my home use. But let's say I wanted to create multiple, Python files, right? And do them all together. And if I want to do that, actually, how I can do that. So you know how let me actually do it with this example. Okay, so you know how I did define the function, function.py, and let's say I'm going to define my function in here, right? While say x is greater than 0, then x minus equals 1. And so that's my function. Now, let's say I want to be able to call my function in here. Right now, I can't. If I go like nothing comes up, right? Because it's not, the function is written in a different file. But what I can do is I can use a Python keyword called import. If we do import it's just import function.py.
Oh, you're going with that day one basic stuff there, importing functions from other files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we can use import to import stuff from
Yeah.
other Python files.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But,
As the name would imply, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's not worry about that too much for now. We do get into a bit
David
more.
is a really good programmer, just so you guys know. They're
Yeah.
really experienced.
Sorry,
They're
guys.
really passionate about it there too. I'm more of a design, you know what I mean, creative sort of guy there too. Though David's a really good like coder there too. Though very logical guy. As you can see from his coding that too. He's a great guy for teaching this. That's why it's like you know, there's a lot of good stuff here for the week there. So, but yeah, what do you want to get onto for
Okay. So let's
examples here first?
So let's do new repo.
Okay.
So new repo, you click
call
on.
I clicked on new repo on the top right,
Oh, the top right. Yeah. Okay.
and we'll call it encryption. We're
Okay.
gonna create a little simple.
So
Okay,
what
well,
we're using the Python language, though, right?
Yes, Python. I'm gonna call it encryption version 2 because I already have one called encryption. But basically we're doing the same thing that I already did.
Yeah.
And
So what's the
what-
example for this one going to be then?
So what we're going to do is I'm just moving them to side by side, so you know I can see them a bit better. But essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to
Well,
we're
you can
going
use
to
my
make-
screen there. Your screen's a bit smaller there since because you got it crushed down there a bit.
right. Okay, sure. So do you want to share your screen then?
Yeah, here. Let me help you out. So then you can go along more with it. Boop. There we go.
Cool.
Encryption. If you want, you can edit it by clicking the little pencil here. But yeah. Okay.
Okay, so basically we're gonna create. So then you guys can come up with your own names, variable names. You don't have to do exactly the way they do it here. But essentially, we're gonna create a variable, and it's gonna take in the input, and we're gonna tell the user enter text to encrypt. So you might want to do something like plain text or text equals.
I'm gonna make it.
What
new-
what
do
do
you
you
So just
suggest-
type in. Okay, so type in text.
we should keep the same variables as much as we can there.
Okay,
Just
fine. So type
yeah.
in plain underscore text
Plain underscore text
Equals.
equals
input,
input
and then in quotes, the brackets and quotes.
Yep.
Type something like enter text to encrypt with colon, I guess, is what they do. So we're basically asking for, and you want to probably put a space because otherwise it won't. The cursor won't be will be right behind the colon, right? So
Yeah, well, that's actually one
Yeah.
spot where you can have it too close or too far away there. Yeah, that's not.
yeah, I
as-
guess it doesn't matter so much.
Yeah,
So right now, if we run it, it won't do much. It'll just get the text that we
yeah.
want.
If we, so I'll hit run here, and then there we go. I gotta enter text
Right.
to encrypt.
So
So,
now
this is,
we're gonna-
so what's encrypting though? That's like basically like disguising something there, right? Securing it
Yeah,
usually is what
exactly.
they're
So for example,
making it harder to
any-
read, right?
anytime we sign on online to something and we put in a password, it's always encrypted, right? Because that way we don't want people being able to tell what our password is. So they
Yeah.
use different ways to encrypt stuff, you know?
Like a
usually
code.
Some sort of math formula is involved. But yeah, that's the idea of it, right? Encryption, and the opposite is decryption. So
like when you're doing like a code or something like that, and you take like every letter and you switch it with like a symbol or something like that, that's encrypting it, right?
Exactly.
Like if you were to take
So-
every letter in the alphabet there and give it a number, right? That would be encrypting it in that way. So then if you gave someone a series of numbers and they go, oh, that spells this word, right?
Right.
That's a form of encryption. Not the only one, right? But it's like, yeah, basically anything where you could change something around, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So cool. We have something that we can. The people.
So this is going to be the
Now
thing
the
that we're
user
going to
can-
try to make into a code, right? Basically.
Yeah,
Which is
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
We're using code
Yeah.
to make code.
So okay.
Huh.
So you want to probably press stop on there, so that we can add some more. So now we're
Oh,
going to
Good point.
add.
Stop.
We're going to create a new variable. So you can do it on the next line, and they call it encrypted underscore text. So
Okay.
basically, we're going to create a variable that will store encrypted text. But because initially we don't want it to be anything, so we're going to create what's called the empty string, just 2 quotes together.
So an empty string is as close as to doing like a blank space of a.
Exactly. So it says that it's a string variable. It's going to hold some text, but right now it holds nothing, no text.
Yeah. Well, it does hold some text, but it's like basically the equivalent of 0.
Yeah.
Where 0 is not a number, but it is still something that we write down, right? Like it's.
Right. So
It's a
then
weird
next
concept. It's a
line,
placeholder, right?
Yeah.
we're gonna use the for loop. We're going to say for C in plain text. So the idea with this, and this is why
Type it halfway
for
through, then
loops-
click on it.
Yeah, and then colon.
Hey, right.
And so
Full colon right there. That's the big
yes.
one.
And so while for loops has a little weird syntax in Python, they're very powerful because basically what this is saying is telling Python to say for every character in plain text, right? We don't have to call it C. We could call it whatever we want. You could call it character. You could call it whatever you feel like. But it's essentially for every character in the string that plain text holds, right? We're going to do something with it. So, so next line, and indent.
And I just put a space in between like the variables here and the for loop here. That's just to help things make readable. Like you could squish everything there together like this, but technically we put these two together because it's doing the same thing here. So if we had like a series of like 20 variables we want to call first, we could put them one after another because they're doing the same thing, right? But if we had one for loop in between all of those there, you would just kind of put like a space in between it there just to help kind of make people understand when they're looking at it. You know, these are separate things there, even though they're similar, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, just by the by, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So next we are going to, inside of our for loop, we're going to say x equals, so we want to indent. Yeah, x equals, and we're going to use a special Python built-in keyword function rather called ORD, ORD, which stands for ordinal.
I always find that weird because that's like the last half of my name, Cliff Ord. Every time I see them, I'm always like, it's like.
And then in bracket, oh yeah,
that's literally like
don't type the Cliff part. That's just we're showing us.
Clifford.
Yeah, but if like how people call me Cliff, it's like you could call me Ord, anyways.
And then in brackets, we're gonna put in C, our variable that we created. So what this does is, if I don't know if anyone knows what an ordinal is, but essentially it's a type of number, right? So what this is, see, it tells us actually, if you put your cursor over there again, Cliff, it returns a Unicode point for one character string, meaning it returns
a Unicode point for one character string.
So really,
here I was thinking it was just a regular code point for one character.
Okay, so it returns a number for that particular character, right? So A has a number that all computers recognize, and that's how they tell it's A. B has a different number, so on and so forth. Right?
Is it like what type of number is it?
Just
is it the same number between all the computers there? Is A the same number in every computer?
Is it in order? 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
well,
6?
So it is in order. It can be the same number. It depends. So computers actually have like a few different conventions, ways of interpreting numbers to characters. One of them is called Unicode. Unicode is a pretty big standard because it lets us use pretty much every single character in every single language, as well as all the emojis and, you know.
Oh yeah, emojis are Unicode. I forgot about that. That's why whenever they add new emojis, it's a big deal because it's not like they just add it to one library. Technically, they're adding it to the Unicode library, right?
Yes, exactly. Whereas, and so the Unicode standard defines like every single character, whether it be in English, in Chinese, in Japanese, in French, and wherever, or every emoji has a number attached to it that the computer can recognize, right?
What about the poop emoji?
Yeah, it has a number attached to it as
There
well.
is a number attached to the poop. Okay, just wondering, just asking for.
If you've ever heard of ASCII, ASCII, that was the older standard that used to be before Unicode, and it only really we could only really do like basically the characters we see on the keyboard.
where you didn't have
Oh.
emojis. So Unicode added emojis, and that's kind of what made it so big, because people
Right.
love emojis on their phone, right?
So
Okay.
anyway, so ORD basically just, it's a special Python built-in function that gives
Oh, so
us
the numbers that it
character.
gives, it's only in Python.
So we can
Ah.
actually test this before we continue. What we can do for the next line is we could print out X, and we can get.
This is more what you use print for in Python moving forwards in your, I was going to say life, but in the future there, right? Print is usually used to go like, if we ever want to check something out there too, though, right? The only way that we can
Great
see
way.
what variables equal is if we print them, right? Like,
Exactly. So it can
plain
help
text,
with what's called debugging too, right? If you find some problem with your code and you know it's not a spelling error, then you can use print statements to check and see, is it doing what I think it should be doing? So if we run this, and you can put in whatever text you want, you can put in your name, say, okay, hello. Hello, world. So there we go. That's
what is
all of
this?
the-
What did
I
you
got it.
I got a whole bunch of numbers.
Right. So those numbers are what is known as the Unicode number for each letter. So 72 is the Unicode number for H, for capital H. 101 is the Unicode number for small e, then small l.
LL would be
So
the
we have
two
108,
108s here. Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
111 is O. Then space has a Unicode character.
Wait,
As
what?
32. Yeah.
And 87 for capital W. 111 for
Weird. For
O
C
again.
And then
plain
L
text
here again, and
equals
108.
endpoint.
Yeah. See, so this is what we are doing. We're going to take this number and do something with it
Yeah.
in order to make our encryption.
So basically, it did for C in plain text, which what is C though, right? But that would
But
be
C is
this,
just a variable we created the
Yeah.
name for, but really all it is a
and
thing
we just
that
created it right here though, in the middle of this for statement.
Right. And it's really what it's doing with the for loop is it's taking every single character inside, or every single letter inside of our plain text.
Now, could we just said or C in there?
You could
Oh,
do
okay.
that.
I was just wondering. I was like,
Yeah. So you could say print or C. We're just storing it because we're going to do something else with it.
yeah, okay. And so that's what I was saying here. So yeah, we can. That
Yeah.
print was
So
just
you
to
can-
test this out.
You can delete the print statement. Yeah, it was just to
Hey.
test it out.
That's basically just to see our code after it's encrypted, right? So this is
Mhm.
technically the encrypting process.
Mhm.
Mine isn't working.
Yeah, mine isn't working either.
Okay.
It doesn't show
Yeah.
like numbers.
It
I
does
get
it does
that?
it show numbers?
No, it doesn't. It
Hey,
just shows like when I press run, it shows enter text to. It
Oh.
just doesn't show like the numbers.
Yeah, no. I had to type in "hello world" here for it to show the numbers for mine.
Yeah, so you have to first
Yeah.
enter your text to encrypt because that's what we're asking for input, and then the for loop will
So if I
run.
run this again, it just says "enter text to encrypt." So I can put in whatever I want here. So if I put Hagar,
I don't know why it's not.
Oh, okay.
Mine gives me an error code when I enter. Like,
Oh, cool.
it runs at the start, but when you type in a character, words,
What's
and
the-
then
what's the
enter.
error code?
Okay, so it's, let me copy and paste it into the chat.
And Hagar, did that help a little? Were you able
Yeah.
to go? Yeah.
Now
Okay.
it shows the numbers.
nice. And so each of those numbers should coincide with the letters there.
Wait,
So
what?
like I put in Hagar here, so
And,
A is 97. You could see that twice showing up in the pattern here, right?
And Cliff, if you ran it again and say did A B C D E F or something like that, you'll see.
Wait, why can I not copy and
No,
paste
well,
it?
I was thinking specifically A B C D to show that it's in order, but
Oh, I was thinking QWERTY there because it's like a keyboard, right? Yeah.
Can I share my screen?
yeah, sure. Cliff, you might need to stop because I think it's one participant at a time. Okay, well, we'll see what the alphabet is.
There we
There
go.
we go. So that's all the Unicode for the alphabet.
So that part at least starts at 97. I was wondering about that one.
So,
Okay.
Cliff, you might need to stop sharing. So
There we
that,
go.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
you could-
really weird. Now it's working, and I didn't change anything, but now there's no error code.
So, Anika, it says invalid syntax. Does it give a line number?
Wait, are you talking to me?
No, to Anika.
Oh.
I'll rename her just so it's easier. There we go. Does it say a line number for where it says invalid syntax? Okay, until it says line 5. All right. Cliff, can you share your screen again, please? Let's see what line 5 is supposed to be.
Yes, sir.
Maybe I just didn't read. Maybe I forgot to refresh the code, so it.
Yeah. So line 5 should be x equals ORRD.
Yeah, but this little space right here, this is super important to have that space in there.
Exactly.
And that's, you can tell that there's a space there because they put in this little gray line here, showing that there's a space here. That's what that means there, is that this is where the line is, and this is where it's indented to, basically, right?
And if you look also at what Cliff has run, you'll see that capital A sets at 65 and then goes 66 for capital B. But then small a sets at 97.
Yeah, it's just showing how there is a different Unicode, which means that these are different characters, right? Unicode basically shows like, this is what all of these things mean there. There's none of them are just, you know what I mean? Like the same thing though. A is not A, basically. There's no way to say that with speaking. It's a read-only thing, right?
Yeah.
Still there.
Wait. Oh, I know why. It's because why I got that error. It's because even after you can still when the code's not running, you can still sort of like, if you like run the code and then stop it and then you type in a word after that, it will give an error because the input code's not running properly, running. So
yeah, you always want to stop whatever you're running before you make any changes, right? Because it's always better. We've had that problem in Roblox Create, especially in Roblox Studio, right? Before, where if you don't make any changes, but if you make changes while running it.
And that's why it's like, generally speaking, and this is true not just for Roblox or coding or anything like that, everywhere. I have the same problems with Minecraft Create too, where if we have Minecraft running in the background when we're trying to do the MC edit there to import the 3D objects, it'll try to both be using the same save file there, and it causes conflict. Generally speaking, with computers, it's just best to not be running your program that you're trying to create at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And now, so Cliff, you stumbled on something interesting, which is that the numbers themselves have a different Unicode character or number for each of them, right?
Yeah, and it's also different for the capitalization of those numbers too, though, right? So like 1 and exclamation point, those are two separate.
Yeah, that's the error. Yeah, you have to, if you can't, if you start it and then you stop it after it prints it. That's how I got that error code before. But if you get,
because I changed the code there while running it. I was trying to do that. It didn't do it till after it all. Yeah.
So Anika, I'm not sure why it's still saying invalid syntax. The only thing I can say, if you're not able to share your screen, is you'll have to see and make sure that you have exactly what.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, if you can't share your screen at all, that's fine. But it is the easiest way for us to help you guys out there more than anything, right?
Yeah.
Because then we could actually see the problem.
Yeah.
How is everyone else doing?
Mine's working fine.
Cool.
Fine.
Yeah.
The two Logans and Hagar.
Yeah, it's good.
You guys okay?
Wicked.
And mine works.
Okay.
So Ord T.
That's good. You know, the first step of all of this is basically making sure that you guys can type it in there so that there's no problems. That's essential for learning any code.
There's just one thing. When I try to do something to start it with like a capital letter, it doesn't it doesn't show the numbers. So I just did without capital letters.
Anika, share your screen again. I was just taking a look. Your code looks like it should be correct. So I want to take a look and see. Cliff, you're pretty good too. Issues.
Line 5, x equals ord bracket c, and that's the same c there, right? Why is line 6
Yeah.
doesn't say? Oh, that's weird, eh?
Wait,
Wait, are
Uh,
you using capital C and small c or no?
No.
it seems right to me when I
looks
looked at my
perfectly
code
right.
and my
Right.
other code, it worked.
Yeah, it looks correct, right, guys?
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Is it because
I
there's
don't
a
see
space after X?
Anything wrong?
But I don't think that
No.
would do anything.
So the only other thing is that plain underscore text. I'm just double checking that they got the plain text there typed in right. Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
a space after input. I don't know if that.
Oh,
You know what? There is
Oh,
an error
and
that's
yeah,
being-
That
You see
should
how
make
there's
a
a-
difference, usually.
You see how there's a red underscore line there? That does mean there's a difference.
There's-
That
and
little,
no,
yeah, that right there. So get rid
It-
of the space at the end of that, right?
Huh. I
That would
didn't know that would matter
Yeah.
if you added a space.
And hit backspace.
No.
Oh.
May or may
no,
not.
I meant after input at the top. And
Yeah,
then
maybe
it's
Oh.
the
like-
input
Right,
would
no, I
also
see what
do.
you're saying. I don't think that usually matters, but yeah, get with the space
I don't
between.
know.
Yeah, it is supposed to be one thing there. That's for sure. Yeah. So if you say-
It's still not working.
But
I'm just
Anika,
trying to find
get
any
rid of your
possible
print
thing.
statement for now.
How come line 6 doesn't have a number 6 on it though?
Wait, did it glitch
So,
out? Did
Anika,
the
get rid of your
program
print
glitch?
statement. Hold on, guys.
Yeah.
Anika, get rid of your print statement for now. and
Yeah.
delete what's line 6, basically?
Yeah, it doesn't say it's line 6.
Oh, they use spaces instead of the enter key.
Oh, I see.
Ah.
Okay. So,
So
Anika,
that
you
was
see how there's a
technically still
P?
line-
You see how there's a P all the way? Yes, exactly. So you want to basically hit enter.
Always hit
You're gonna
enter
have
to go to
have
the
a
next
new
No,
line.
no, not
No,
space.
not
Enter.
tab.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Oh, tab.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, enter. There you
Yeah.
go. So that's actually putting in a new line, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing
Hmm.
is, so because Python doesn't require the semicolons, the only way you can tell when it's a new statement of code is a new line.
Yeah.
Or else
So
it'll
whenever you go to the
think
next line, you always have to hit enter to go to the next line there.
Yeah.
You don't just go to the end of the line there like that, because technically that line 5 can be as long, like any of these lines can be infinitely long, that even if it loops around like that, it's still technically part of the same line. And that happens. If you got to
Yeah.
put in a super long number and it's longer than how wide your screen is, the computer will go, okay, well, that's just all one thing. It doesn't see it as separate things. Hitting
In
enter
fact-
actually makes it a separate command.
In fact, let me
Yeah.
show you guys something. Like, for example, so because of the whole line thing, right? If I
Don't-
did like this
Oh.
is going to be a really long.
Is it- I think it has to be indented on the print one.
And if I do like this, paragraph,
Yeah, I think.
Well, we'll come to
Oh,
that
yes,
one
it
next
doesn't.
there, right?
I guess that doesn't work. Never mind. Sorry.
No,
It's
no.
not
So
actually
there
fair
was
to
still
do that.
one more issue there with that code there. Was it Anika? Was that showing their screen?
There
Anika.
was no tab.
Is that the second line after that where it said print that had to be indented in or pushed over there, like it's the same spacing as the line above it?
Right.
Because and that's saying that the x equals ord and the print x there, both of those are happening within the for statement. So when it says for, that means everything after for is going to happen basically if it's true, right? That's essentially what that means there. So that indenting there basically makes the code underneath it run. So if you had it so like for mine where it just shows print and no space after that, it'll just show it once here, right? So now whenever 4C in plain, it'll run this and it'll run this one once after it's done. So we do
But
this
it
up
won't.
here.
But the X won't eat anything, though, right? That's the other thing.
So it'll just print the last thing. X, right? So if I don't have that in there, so if I put that within the code here, it'll run that every time and print every individual
Right,
letter
yeah,
of it,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So that's why it's like every little space matters. I think that was a great example of showing of how every space matters there. How,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? If you hit space so much there that it becomes another line, it'll see this forever, right? Like if you have one
It'll
long...
still see it as all one line. That's why 6 is all the way down white print, but there's like 3, 2 spaces, right? Yeah.
Whoa.
And this is all one line, that even though it looks like it's some huge long thing there, The
It's
computer's going
all-
like blah 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 blah, and it'll just read this one thing as one, and it is one thing. It's basically one long, you know what I mean, string. sort
Yeah.
of thing, right? Yeah. So it's like that's why it's like don't the spacing only counts by what the numbers here. This is each line. So even though this line takes up 20 lines there, technically this is line 6. This all is line 5, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't
of
matter how
code,
wide.
right? So
the
it's line
screen is,
5
right?
of code versus line. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you can change your screen size and that'll even change the length of those lines. That's why it's like this. This is just the human interface into the robot world, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're gonna delete the print statement.
Cool.
And we're going to add instead.
More
X,
hacker stuff.
So, yeah.
Sure.
So next line. So enter. So you're on line 6 of code, and x equals x plus 1, or x plus equals 1.
Okay.
Still indented with the previous line.
Yes, indented. So we're still in the for loop. So x equals x plus
Excuse
1.
me.
So remember, x is now an integer, right? It's the Unicode value of our characters. So we're going to add 1 to it.
Mhm.
And then we are going to say C2. They use C2. So next line. But if you don't want to get confused, you can call it something else. You can call it like character or char or, new char. Sure.
Clifford.
All right, Clifford equals.
Clifford equals.
And CHR, which is the opposite of ORD. No, small. CHR, and then
Okay, CHR. Okay, yeah.
no AR, just CHR.
Oh, sorry.
CHR.
You said it again. Oh, so is it CHR like that? There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad.
And then in brackets X. We're passing in the variable X.
Yeah.
So CHR does the opposite of ORD. It converts the number back into the string.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So as long as 0 is less than or equal to I, right?
Yeah.
You know, right? Simple stuff.
Yeah,
like
exactly. You can ignore that sort of stuff if it's confusing. But basically, really, it's just returning the character or the string, right?
Yeah. So
And
this
so
is
then, so then what we're going to do is we're going to say in the next line, so still in the for loop,
Mhm.
we're going to say encrypted text.
Okay. And
this is something that
Try
we've called
spelling
beforehand. So as soon as I
encrypted.
type in EN, it'll already have that line from above there. So it's best to
Exactly.
select this because that will be the perfect spelling.
Right, exactly. Equals.
Yeah. So even if you spelt encrypted text wrong here, like if I forgot to put the E in there, it'll still come up here as encrypted text there, exactly as I spelt it
Right,
wrong there, right?
exactly.
It's not technically an autocorrector. It's
It's
yeah. It's auto-completing the things that we've done there.
Yeah,
So this is
autocomplete.
spelt the same way wrong. So even though I misspelt my thing, it doesn't matter because I just auto-filled it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So equals, encrypted text equals encrypted text plus Clifford or C2 or whatever.
C2.
Yeah, it's gonna be Clifford. You already said. pick
Oh yeah,
some
I'm
keyboard
gonna
there
call
to a
I'm
guy
gonna call
named
it Clifford's the best.
Yeah.
Clifford and David is the best.
Okay, so what this,
Sure.
and so basically what we're doing is now we're just taking that character, the new encrypted character,
Mhm.
and adding it to our encrypted text string, right? So that way
Yeah.
we're building up our new string, a new actual encrypted text, one character at a time.
So it's gonna have the old letter and the new number in there all in one go, or is this all just gonna be
the
the?
new,
Oh,
just
okay.
the new one, right?
Okay.
Because we took the number X, right? So it's like, for example, in Cliff's example on the right, 67. So we took 67 and we're going to add 1 to it, make it 68. Then we're going to convert
Oh,
it back
so we're
into
changing.
whatever character it is, which would be capital D.
Yeah.
And then we're adding that capital D to our new encrypted text variable,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So this is the thing that's basically making it secret, right? This is under anyone that knows ORD can do this. This is the thing that makes the difference. So if we change it from
Right.
1 to some other number there,
Right.
It's
And
a
it's a very
completely different
basic
code.
encryption.
Oh
but
yeah.
but it still does it.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna put a new line, and we're gonna do outside of a for loop. So we're gonna close that.
So
for
we'll
loop.
hit 2 lines, or no, just one. Yeah.
2 lines, sure.
Yeah.
And then hit backspace so that we
We're back
go
at the
back.
beginning of the line there. No indentation should
Right.
be there, right? We should be starting at the very first part.
Right, and then we're gonna print, and just print a new line, basically a blank line. So just brackets like that.
Doesn't like the enter for me. There we go. I had to struggle with that one.
And then we're gonna print encrypted text.
And since these are similar, I'll keep them right next to each other without a space in between that.
Yeah,
And
then we'll put in encrypted text.
since we're not, and this is one of those things where since we're basically putting in computer code, I don't need to put the brackets here, right?
Yeah.
Because some people, and this is a thing that I've seen happen, where people put in the brackets here, and then they come out, and then they're going like, "How come it's printing off the
Right.
word
So
in
that's
print?"
telling it to print
Yeah.
just a string encrypted text, the
Yeah.
name. But here we're telling it to print the variable.
Yeah. So if you put the little quotes here, it's gonna print literally encrypted underscore text, where we want it to print out what it equals, which should be this, which I mean is also this and this and this and a whole bunch of other stuff here. So we'll see what happens, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah. So let's run it and see.
I'm just gonna say hi. Hi.
And
I
there
did.
is
Jigglypuss.
Clifford's name encrypted.
Hi encrypted is IJ.
So this is basically.
I didn't work.
Yours didn't work?
Wait, oh, I noticed what I did wrong. Never mind.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always like that too, though, where I'm first to jump on that I did something wrong before I actually jump on to what.
Now, what about everyone else? Will you get it to work?
Mine's working.
Cool. And Logan, oh, I saw you put your nice.
Mine worked.
Anika, are you okay? If you're not, send a message in chat. Real sentence, but just sentence. Now it's more a paragraph, but all one line. You're good, great.
I did a typo.
That's
Aw,
okay.
Enter.
man.
There we go, and that's all that encryption there.
Miller encrypted is NJMMBS.
And see, it's
Nice.
double encrypted
Now-
because I also
now
put
if
typos
you-
in there.
Like Cliff had said
Uh-huh.
before, if you want, you could change that one, right? Like, let's say, you're like, oh, I want to make it a little more complicated. You could do +5. Or you could even, if you're good with math, you could even do like some more complicated math thing. Like, I
And
don't
that's
know.
and this is basically like where when they used codes in war, right? They would use machines like this, where basically you took the letter, gave it a
I
number,
saw
and then
that.
you added or plus whatever the numbers there too, though. So the only way anyone, even a friendly, could decrypt the message was if they knew what the key for was. So our key for ours is basically +1, right? Where if we changed it to +2 here, it would come up with something entirely as well, right? Where it would say A equals now C, right?
Right.
That's the easiest way to test this out. So 1, if we had it set at 1 there, A equals B, right? You know what I
And
mean? So you're,
if you wanted a bit more complicated, you could even do something like x equals x times x, maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? Like, you could do whatever you want.
X equals 51. This is going crazy.
Mine doesn't work.
Does
Okay.
it say nothing at all? Or
It just says enter text. Like it doesn't show like
So when you enter text to encrypt, does it give anything or no?
let's say I try.
Yeah, nothing happens for me.
Oh, it's working for me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
yeah,
So,
well,
Yeah,
we'll see.
nothing.
We'll see here.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
Weird.
troubleshoot it one at a time, eh?
Just spits out nothing.
Hmm.
Huh.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Working.
And you did like the X equals X plus 1 sort of thing.
Yeah.
Hagar, are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just shared it. So
Okay.
this is what
So-
happens.
Oh, there you go. I got hers on.
Oh, and it says, because you did the same
Oh,
mistake
yeah.
we were talking about, which is you don't want to put encrypted text in quotes.
I'm sorry. I was
Because
purposely trying
what
to.
you're doing, Haga,
Yeah.
by saying that is you're saying
Ah.
print the text, encrypted text, right? The message, the string. But
Yeah.
we want to print the variable. So delete the
Yeah.
quotes.
Just the quotation marks there, because whenever you put quotation marks inside of print, it'll literally
That and the other
print
quote. Yeah.
whatever's in those quotes.
And now you see how it turns
Yeah.
from purple or pink or whatever color to black? Because that's the variable. So now it'll print out the variable.
Yeah.
Yay, and
So
then
now-
it would work.
Yeah, and that's why that's a good example of just kind of showing you how print statements work, though, too. That's what I was trying to go for there. I don't know if you did that or if it was my own mistake here, but yeah. Now you type that in, it'll print it off to numbers.
No, you
Oh.
have to hit enter after you do it.
Oh.
So you have to put in your name and then hit enter. Remember that.
Enter. There you go.
There you go.
IBHBS.
That's
Okay.
one
That's
letter
a cool
over from
encryptor.
everything in your name there. So
Yeah, I get. Yeah, I get.
equals
Ashton, do you want to
Yeah.
say your thing?
Sure.
Okay.
Da-da-da-da-da.
that's good work, everyone.
I have it on multiple sharing clips, so it should be okay for now.
Cool. Okay.
And that's cool. Encrypt some text.
Nothing happens if I.
Encrypt some text. H.
Yeah, just 8.
Oh, it's because your encrypted text is plus encrypted text plus Clifford.
Yeah, isn't
Oh
that
yeah.
what-
Okay.
No, it's
Mine it should be encrypted text equals encrypted text plus Clifford.
I mean, you could also do the plus equals there, but we're not doing it like that because we want to catch those little mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
I did X plus equals.
Oh, hey, look, it
That's
changed
that one.
Hubwada to Fahugwada.
So for me, so guys, for me personally, I usually use a plus equals only when we're dealing with numbers because
Yeah.
it's easier. When you're dealing with text variables, it's a little harder. It's
Yeah.
kind of weirder, right?
Yeah.
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 Generally speaking, you only use the plus equals there if you're just trying to do something quick
Yeah.
on there, right?
Yeah.
And then if you guys, I mean, we got 15 minutes. So what you could do, Cliff, if you want to share your screen, is you could even copy the code so we don't have to type it all out again. And we'll create a new REPL and we'll do decryption.
Oh, decryption. Aha. I think I know how we're gonna decrypt it.
Pretty much the same way we encrypt
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Except this way, we'll use magic.
Yes,
So when
magic.
you click on new REPL,
Okay, so I got all of mine
I'm
selected.
gonna
and
call
then
it
I'm gonna copy.
decryption.
Right clicking and then just go to copy.
yeah,
So, oh yeah, new
D-
REPL is in the top right here.
yep,
D-
Python.
Language is Python, and then instead of pungent shallow monitor,
That's awesome.
Hooray! It's beautiful.
All right.
They choose the best names for
I
your
gotta say,
project.
Thank you.
the random names they use with the
And then
Tinkercad
you can paste it,
is a lot more.
So you do copy and then what?
and then we
Control
go to
V.
new REPL, and then you paste it in the new REPL.
Yeah.
And
And
really,
this one, I'm calling it decrypted.
really, all you need to do is change the line 6 x to x minus 1.
Yeah.
But if you want, you could also, to make it, a little make more sense for you, you could change the variable names too, right? Because right now, if you just change the -1, it doesn't really, it's still, it's showing like it's enter text to encrypt, right? We're still encrypting things. So you want to put decrypt, and maybe you could change up the name of some of your variables too, if you'd like, but
Okay, I got it.
That's, yeah, the main thing you want to do is just a -1. And this actually will basically encrypt our words, though, in the opposite direction of the other one, because I don't have any of the decrypted things here. I could come up with it, mind you, but yeah, if I type in Clifford, what do we get? Blick.
right.
Yeah.
So that's
So if
the
I type in
only one thing.
A, instead of it going to B, it now goes over.
Now, one thing, so one thing you could do, for example, Clifford, is you could duplicate this tab, this Google Chrome tab. If you right-click on the Google Chrome tab,
Oh, yeah.
and you go to duplicate,
Duplicated.
and now you can go back into your REPL. Like if you click on the left side, the top 3, top
Left side,
go to
my
REPLs,
REPLs, and then I
click
got
on
my
encrypt it, and yeah,
encryption code.
and
like
there
a
you go.
hacker.
Now you have both open. You can run it. Type in something to encrypt. One ring to rule them all. H.
Okay, that's a Lord of the Rings reference there. So then if
Dun,
I copy
dun, dun,
this,
dun.
Copy. You can copy that,
Oh,
and you can.
stop, and then run this again.
Okay, let me. I'm just gonna. It's okay if I put in a random word from
course.
that I just typed into encrypt and make
Well,
the.
how will you know if you spelled the proper Fahugvada?
Oh, what?
You could do what he did and copy it. I don't
Yeah.
know how to move stuff.
Oh, what?
You
What-
have to right click on it there to paste it in here, but you can't like control V.
Anika, if you
I was
go
gonna
back,
do I was just gonna do
you
to do a sentence.
Mila, hold on one second. So Anika said she actually moved her stuff in line 1 to line 11. One thing you could do is, Cliff, if you go to the
Where you
history
could
thing,
copy and paste this over again, right?
you could, well, that's true, you could do that. But I was gonna say, if you go to the history thing, it should probably allow you to undo.
Yeah, it allows you to undo.
Okay, cool.
Control Z and the undos.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Agar. So yeah,
Okay.
here we go.
Okay, I'm gonna send you the
I'm
the
nervous about this.
encrypted here. Oh wait. Oh no, I forgot
Oh,
to copy the
Started with
encrypt-
decrypted.
Yeah, with the
You send us your code.
yeah, I forgot to copy
You actually call it Clifford and David is the best. I love you.
copy it, so I get
That's hilarious.
pasted the last thing.
How
Yes.
do you undo? So Cliff,
Okay, there.
you know,
Let me
can you
play.
show Anika how to undo?
Okay, here's the encrypted word.
I don't know how I undo it. Just undoes it for me sometimes. I mean, I hit
So-
Control Z.
Okay, yeah. So if
So
you hit
if I were
Control
to
Z, but if you
Delete
go
all of
into
this
the-
by accident, I could then just hit Control Z, and then Control Z, and then Control Z.
Right, but the other
Oh,
thing,
that's how you cycle through your clipboard.
Yeah.
yeah, but the other thing, Cliff, is you see up at the top, there's that little half circle with the play button.
Yep.
That's the
Click to
full
see
history, the repo history. If you click on it,
History.
uh,
Expand the day. So this will show every little thing that I've done
Yeah,
on this file.
exactly. So if
Poor
I
little guy. So many changes.
click on this,
Yeah. So this is the way
that'll
that
tell you
David
what-
undoes stuff, right? I just hit Control Z, mind you.
That sort of
Yeah,
reminds
so-
me of Google Docs.
But if- But yeah, with Google Docs is a good example there, where if you are like, oh no, this is all messed up, I need that code that I did up 5 weeks ago, right? You can
Yeah.
go through here, find that, and then just restore it back to exactly how it was at
Yeah.
that time, right?
Yeah,
but
because
Cliff is right. That you know, if it's just like a small little mistake right away, you can
Yeah.
hit Control Z, and it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
But just so you know, you have that too.
For sure.
I'm not
And that's why it's like
confused.
that's an important tool to have. Oh
I
no.
sent you the
I got nothing
encryption
in here,
code, by
David.
the way.
What did you do, Cliff?
Well, that's where I ended it on, was it being the 1 second last at the end was me deleting everything, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Go back to
I
the
sent you
file.
the decrypted code, by the way. The encrypted code. It's underneath the coding.
Yeah, the encrypted one. Nice. So,
Yes.
So there you go, guys. We've done our first 2 Python programs, an encryption and decryption program. It's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it's really cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Hidden message.
Oh, you put it both of them in one.
He did. You could do that too. You could copy it and
Wait,
paste it into the same program.
Or we could even just
Yeah.
remove this input thing in between.
Clifford, I'm gonna share my screen.
If you
For a
want,
second.
if you want,
Okay.
Clifford, you can decrypt the
Yeah,
text that I
Now,
sent.
no. You guys got to check out this awesome. I combined
Oh,
both
wait.
of the lessons
Wait.
together. Watch this. Watch.
Wait.
Watch. If I type,
So he put them
Hello.
both together without the input in between.
so this is now just nothing, right? It just
One
basically
second.
encrypts it back and forth, and it doesn't make any sense now. How did that not work? Okay.
Because the Cliff, the reason it didn't work is because you did C in plain text both times.
Oh.
I'm
In
back.
plain
Sorry.
text is your text to encrypt.
Yeah,
You
I gotta
gotta do
change this one.
C in encrypted text.
Yeah.
and then you gotta do plain text equals. Well, you gotta reset plain text.
Oh yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, is
Right? You had to reset plain text to a blank thing. So it's a little more complicated if you want to do it both together like that.
This is why I don't use my spelling, because my spelling's terrible.
Yeah, that's what you could do. Autocomplete. It's still not gonna work though, because you have.
And it says both of them now. Yeah. I tried. Okay.
Anyway,
Clifford,
yes, Ashton.
if you look
Go
at
ahead.
my screen share, when I do like a really big number, it just turns into like this.
Well, because it's Unicode. So
What? Oh, that must be a Unicode character. See, I don't have all of the Unicode characters too, though, so sometimes like, it won't even show all of them for me. Yeah.
yeah, see, so
Oh.
it's trying to display all the Unicode characters as they are, right? But the thing is that we are also doing the output in like the command line, so the command line may not be able to display all those Unicode characters.
Weird. Oh, because you got it. X equals X plus 7
Yeah,
that's what- that's
it's
what
got a really big number. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's Unicode has every character in it,
If
right?
I do like this, it
So-
doesn't even work. I don't think.
It'll still work. It just won't
Yeah.
display. And it doesn't like the size of it all, eh?
It's too large.
Yeah.
I go like
'Cause-
that.
Yeah.
Let's see if that works. No, too big.
No. I wonder why that's too big though. Oh, it's because it's too big for the Unicode or the character thing.
It passes the Unicode spectrum. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, that's
Yeah.
That
Or
is
like the list.
actually that
Yeah.
is
that
actually
is
a-
actually encrypted, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Fully.
Yeah, that is
100%
encrypted. You
encrypted.
cannot
Maybe
tell
symbols
what
that
this
aren't-
is at all.
But hold on, here's a test though. Run it through your decryption.
Yes.
Because, like, with the
Yeah.
same stuff,
Yes, run it through the decryption method. Will it work?
because I don't think it
It's,
will.
like-
Because if it does, that would be the ultimate decryption.
Well,
Encryption, I mean.
there Unicode goes up to like a
encryption
million,
and decryption.
right?
So what I don't know, like minus.
Oh no, no.
How would I do that? Like,
Okay,
the-
so you'd have to do a few things. So one, in line 12, you had to put it to minus.
yeah, okay, that's
Right?
it.
But two, in line 9,
Mm-hmm.
so between your 4 statements, so hit backspace, you're gonna have to say something like plain text equals encrypted text.
Mm-hmm. Which is half
So
the
we're
thing
set-
I did.
We're setting plain text to, yeah,
Yeah.
you might as well use autocomplete. Equals encrypted text. So we're setting it to what our encrypted text is. And then you want to hit enter. And you also want to say encrypted text equals quote, quote, like equals, the blank.
Oh, equals just quote quote. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're kind of resetting.
Empty. Yeah, blank space, right?
Yeah, just like what you did in line 2.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not even
and
a
that-
space there, just a nothing.
Yeah, and
yeah.
that should work.
Which essentially makes it into just a text printer thing, but like
Why
using
is that
math.
not working now?
Brah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay, so we apparently, no, it did work.
Oh.
Okay, cool.
Now it's
yeah. Encrypt some text. There you go. Perfect.
Hey.
It works. It's funny though because
No, it's through
that it does that like the second time.
yeah, because
Oh,
there's no
yeah,
code
yeah.
running. So
right. Okay.
essentially,
Oh.
when you encrypt and decrypt something on one line, it just goes like, "Hey, this is the text. This is the same text, right?" You don't
Exactly.
you don't get to
Because they haven't
see.
shown it, but you could put that in between. Exactly. You could do like a print.
Yep.
Encrypted text, and then it'll print the encrypted text.
Mhm.
So
Uh-huh.
Ashton, right where your line 10 is, if you type in print encrypted text,
Yeah, but if everybody got their
10
text
minutes.
encrypted and encrypted there, that's actually a lot lot of work to do here for today. There, you guys now are all
it is. No,
really
not
much
in
better at
brackets.
Python
I,
than everyone
I
else
know.
now.
Yeah.
You just want the variable.
Everyone else in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
What?
Now we run it.
Encrypt some
Get a
text.
bunch of
Hi.
Oh,
Oh,
and it does
Yeah,
hide.
it
There you go.
works.
it works. Wait, the decryption works?
Okay, it's actually
What?
kinda cool.
Wait, what?
But guys, here's why it works. Because even though we're seeing squares, because it's showing us squares, in reality, variables are holding the actual text, right? The actual stuff.
Uh-huh.
So
Dude, that's the
therefore,
ultimate
program is
Yeah,
using the
that's what I-
proper
Yeah.
encryption.
Yeah. That's it.
And
So
Unicode.
a person just looking at it, that looks like it's 100% encrypted.
You can never use if
no,
you
no,
not have a
that is
program, you will
100%
never be
encrypted.
able. If
Yeah.
you don't know how to code or
But, like,
or
yeah.
or
If you
have
can't see the source, it's 100%.
It is that.
yeah
That's-
yeah you can
And
you
that's only
cannot-
because Unicode doesn't have codes up to that point on it
854,
there, right?
892.
Unicode
I'm gonna-
is 21-bit encrypted, sort of its own encryption thing there too, though. So like it has like up to 1 million characters there. That's why we use Unicode, is because I think ACSII was what we used beforehand. It just didn't. It had it couldn't include everything, especially when you include Japanese and Chinese characters, which are just all over the place, right?
Mhm.
Every character,
Arabic
every
and-
language on the earth is
Yeah,
put in
basically
Unicode
Arabic and
somewhere,
Hindi
there's-
and all of that stuff.
including
Russian.
emojis, right?
Yes.
What happens if you do decrypt A? Decrypt A would be minus A.
No, because we're changing it to the it would be the character before A. Whatever character is in Unicode before.
Yeah,
A.
you're just basically doing
Oh,
the
that
opposite
makes sense.
math there. So if you times it by 5, you would have to then divide it by 5 after.
So
right?
anyway,
It's it's
so if anyone needs to go, we totally understand.
But
But if
that's.
anyone wants to keep chatting a little bit, that's fine.
I
too.
hope nobody's intimidated here by the coding or the Python here. Everybody
Yeah.
seems to be well adjusted to this here too, though. So moving forwards here, right? We'll be doing it the same here. You know, I mean, the main thing that we're trying to do here is making this so this is easy enough for people to understand as they come in here, right? So we'll see you back again tomorrow, and we'll be
Yes.
doing some. Was it some more games there? Are we doing the snake one tomorrow?
Yeah, so we'll start a snake one. We're
Yeah.
gonna build a snake game over the next few days,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll do a little bit at a time each time.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
So it's like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different courses there too, though. I mean, are we doing the Tron one though?
Yeah, we'll do
Wait,
the
Tron?
Yeah.
I think
Like
probably
what
today,
Tron, Hangman, Snake.
and we'll make like a screensaver kind of.
Oh
idea.
yeah, the screensaver one. That's what it was.
Windows 98 screensaver.
done done
Yeah,
done done.
technically
dun,
not
dun,
a
dun,
game.
dun.
It's just a toy.
Just leave it on with your desktop.
And basically,
Okay.
cool.
All right.
Bye,
Thanks.
Logan.
Thanks
Alright,
to everyone
guys.
there. You were all really well mannered and very polite there. It's always
Yeah.
great working with people like that.
See you guys.
Yeah. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye. Whoa, 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 whoa.